Welcome to the Nexus. I'm glad that you've decided to join me today. We have much to discuss. And I mean that when I say it, though, because you've probably seen this video's length. I recommend you take a few moments to grab some breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever you wish, because this will be a long one. I will give you that moment here soon. Just listen to me for a moment, because I need to provide some context as to what we're going to be talking about today on the Nexus. That's my desktop over there. See? The background is the Nexus from Youyoumu and Nikki. I will not talk about that today. That is another topic for another time. But today, we are talking about the TouhouProject. The TouhouProject is a large series of many things made by fans or the series' sole creator, Zun. Many enjoyers of the series make jokes and memes about how many Touhou fans haven't actually played any of the Touhou games that have been released since 1996. And I cannot begin to state enough how true this statement is. I haven't heard nearly as much talk or as much discussion surrounding the Touhou games at all, compared to the massive discussion that's going on and people talking about fan works, fan games, fan music. You know, the original Bad Apple video actually is straight up just a fan video of a fan song. It isn't even original. There are a lot of things about the song that's completely different, but we're not going to be talking about fan content today. That is not our topic, but it's something to note. So I have decided here, because of this fact, I will explore the entire series of TouhouProject. Every single game in the entire series that Zun's been working on since 1995. Technically, it's 1996 when the first game was released, but they were being created in 1995, so that's technically the year that they were born. In this episode, we're going to explore the early Windows era of the games, starting in 2002 on Windows XP, Windows 7 or something. It's early on like that. Now, for the earlier titles, those are part of the PC-98 era because they were released on the Japanese series of PC-9800 computers. We are not doing those in this video. Those will have their own part at the end of our part series. I don't know how many parts it's going to be, but we're going to cover one era at a time. Today's going to be the early Windows era, starting with Touhou 6. And the games include as a total 6, Touhou 7, Touhou 7.5, Touhou 8, Touhou 9, and Touhou 9.5. We will also be covering all fighting games. That's why I included 7.5 in my game overview, because that game is a fighting game. Some of you may not like my opinion on that game, which I will be sharing at that section. You'll just have to watch it to find out. I have left timecodes and timestamps in the description, and there are chapters in this video if you'd like to skip right to that, if that's what you're interested in. You don't have to watch the whole video to get there. Honestly, I encourage not doing that in one sitting, because this video is incredibly long and a lot of work has gone into it. But there will be chapters, there will be timestamps. I will put them up there for you. So you can skip around if you'd like. You still with me here? Glad that you still are. Now I'm going to give you that second I was talking about to get yourself situated with whatever you need to absorb our discussion today. Whether it be the entire thing that you want to watch in one sitting, or you just want to watch a segment or two. Whatever you need, just go and grab it right now. I'm going to give you a couple seconds, whether it be Taco Bell or a can of Sprite. Be careful with the Taco Bell, though. There will not be bathroom breaks. But just get whatever you need. I'm going to give you a couple seconds here. Just go ahead and do that. I'll be waiting. All right. Are you ready? Great. I'm going to continue with this forward, I guess, before we begin. There is an intro sequence. I will play that for you at the end of this segment, but I would like to actually add a couple things before we start this episode. Hi, I am a guy who really likes video games. I really do. I'm not going to tell you my name, but actually, I'm going to let you give me one. I think it'd be cooler if you guys gave me a name instead of me telling you my real name. Why? Well, not because I don't want to get doxxed or anything. I don't think my name is that important. I've been working on this episode for the longest time. I was going to add an editor's note at the end of the entire episode, but I'm just going to do that now, if that's okay with y'all. If you would like to start the video, I recommend you skip. And that timestamp will lead you to the intro segment, where I'll be showing you the intro that I created for this episode. The song is Dungeon Dweller by Galleons. You've probably never heard of them. On Spotify, they only have like 150,000 listeners monthly. They're really good. I enjoyed a lot of their music. Some of their older songs I don't like as much, but I loved Dungeon Dweller. So, yeah, first time I heard it, I decided it'd be the intro music for the Nexus. Oh, yes, I wanted to talk about how long this video has taken me to make. This video has taken so long to write for, record gameplay, produce. You've seen the length. I've put so much time, work, blood, sweat, piss and shit, and love into this video. I love the TouhouProject, if that isn't immediately evident. I would absolutely just love to share it all with you. And this is an idea that I thought was original because I haven't seen anybody else covering every single game in this series as in-depth as possible. Not trying to overview, not trying to overlook anything. However, in many of these segments here, I do overlook a couple things, but typically that's music or art, or honestly, the art I'm not big on picking on because everybody I've heard talking, like a lot of people I've heard talking about the Touhou games, have typically always said in every segment that the art sucks ass. Yes, I know. Well, Zun's art isn't exactly as great in some games. But I love his art. I think it's great. I think it's good personally. Now, most of you probably don't have the same. I personally like Zun's art style in a lot of games. Touhou 7, for example, par exemplar, is really good to me. I love the outfits. I like how the characters look. Okay, it looks great. I like seeing the winter outfits. They're very cute. This video has taken a very, very long time to edit, and it has been painful. Actually, it got pretty fun at times, either listening to Valiant Hearts, Galleons, or a couple of the new rap songs that I found that are actually pretty good. It's pretty fun, and at the very end of this episode, there is not a bloopers segment, but there is a rage montage for Touhou 9.5. So if all of you who have played 9.5 and would, of course, like to see that before they watch any of these segments, in the description, or just drag the video playhead over to it and you'll find it. At the very end of this episode, of course. So toward the end, you'll find it. But yeah, my script for this video, which I did all in one, I did write and edit and record every single segment independently of each other to give myself more of a feeling of achievement and a lot less, make workflow a lot less as a slog, which at times it was. The Touhou 9 segment in particular was a slog, but it was also a hype fest because I ran through it as fast as I could. I edited it as well as I could, as fast as I could, and as efficiently as I could. Most days I was working on Touhou 9, I did not play any other game until I finished editing or until I did as much as I wanted to accomplish for that day. Again, my script has reached around 30,000 words. So, y'all know I put some fucking work into this episode. I really did, and I hope all of you enjoy it. And honestly, I hope I enjoy it, because I haven't watched a single segment since I made them. So I'm going to have a fun time going back and rewatching everything when I export, because as of right now, I have not exported. I just wanted to be real with y'all. That's kind of the whole point of this segment here. I wanted to be real. I wanted to ad-lib, because I like ad-libbing. And in a couple segments, I do go off topic, and I do ad-lib a lot. And I'm happy that I let myself do that. But I'm also happy that I gave myself my own segment to talk about this episode, like, independently. And I like it. And I'm liking the style of editing that I've adopted toward the end of this video, end of this episode. Touhou 6, 7, and 7.5 probably have a different editing style than 8, 9, and 9.5. Most likely because my editing skill has, well, it majorly increased after the finishing of 7.5. Because that was done quite a long time ago. Like a couple months ago, I did 6, 7, and 7.5. And back then, my editing skills were not as good, and I had a worse mic than this one. This mic that I'm using right here is actually in the boom mic for my old mic that you'll be hearing throughout the entirety of 6, 7, and 7.5. And also 8. But the editing style will be different from 8 onward, most likely, because I had an improved mic, and I had a lot more time editing in classes, because I'm taking classes about film and all that stuff. So my editing has greatly increased because I've been able to practice and practice and practice and learn. Because I've learned quite a lot, especially through this episode. I have learned a lot about editing. Like keyframing, I've learned how to do that finally. So that's a good thing. And shoutouts to all of you who saw the trailer and are here now because of it. I thank you greatly for actually showing up. Please do give me a comment, and I will probably heart it. Not that that's really valuable in any way, shape, or form. It's just I'm grateful that you're here. And I guess without further ado, I'm kind of done talking here. I mean, I'd love to talk more, but on my Audacity timer right now, and my phone timer, it's about 17 minutes I've been speaking to you. Well, most likely 17 minutes. I'm probably going to cut that down in editing and post. But anyway, without further ado, I will now show you the intro sequence. Let me boot that up for you.
or two ago, I'd been seeing this one singular video on the very site you're watching this video right now. That was made by everyone's favorite spooky month man, Sir Palo. The video in question went by the title of TouhouProject, the Embodiment of Scarlet Devil. For a long time I'd alluded the video, but it stuck with me for a long time because I had seen it so often that it was practically everywhere to me. So I had given in and watched it. It was beautifully animated, but that's not my point. This one video had put the name of this incredibly big game franchise into my cerebral cortex, which at the time I pronounced Touhou, though it's actually called Touhou, but I would digress. I then moved on to watch Pikaspray Yellow with Touhou on the brain. After the Pokemon video I'd watched, I had searched up Touhou, and what I found was astounding. Pikaspray had a brother, Asprey FM. Not only that, he makes lots of Touhou content. Most important of all of that is the video titled, What is Touhou? A Brief Introduction, which brought my headspace into the series. Now to this point I was a major Galaga and Gradius fan, so this kind of bullet hell shmup was interesting to me. After I saw Asprey FM's video, I moved to his video on what game to start with, because the series had a lot in store, and the rest after that's history. I played Touhou 8, 7, and maybe 6, and most mainline games and beat them. At some point I even speedran Touhou 8 on easy mode, which at the date of writing is still a WR. Or world record, I guess. All of that is a couple years old now. So, starting a few days ago, I had set it to recomplete and play every single game in the entire series and beat them, including PC98, which I'll talk about later on in the video, and all the side games too, including the fighting games, photo games, and all the other funky stuff in the way. Of course, we're going to be trying different shot types, harder difficulties, and give my thoughts under a retrospective lens, instead of a more critical one that I've been trying on the series since the beginning, which just doesn't work at all. And I mean, I tried making a review for Touhou 6, and it just didn't work out. The critical lens just is really difficult sometimes, so you know. Of course, now would be the best possible time to make the video of this kind of caliber because Touhou 19 is finally out, and as it's been out for quite a while now, so without further ado, let us begin, starting with not PC98, like I'd mentioned before. Of course, this is the reason why I'm not starting with PC98 is because I played and recorded the footage for EOSD, or I guess Touhou 6, before I did PC98. And I think I'm going to do PC98 at the end of this video, so it's going to be kind of funky, but like, it's kind of detached from the main series anyway, so yeah. Anyway, on to the first game, EOSD, Embodiment of Scarlet Devil, or Touhou 6. Touhou 6 is kind of rough, but not by fault of its own, of course, because Touhou 6 really piggybacks off the PC98 game's ideas and really tries to modernize them a little bit for the time, which I think was 2002, so modernize was kinda 2002 modern, which isn't very modern to today's standards, so this game didn't age very well. I mean, it did a pretty good job at what it was doing for 2002, of course, apart from Windows 10 compatibility, which that itself is ironic because Touhou 6 was made specifically for Windows computers. Touhou 6 is very rough, but in kind of a good way. Simple and easy to grasp, has a good batch of bad apples within it that make it not my favorite to come back to, unfortunately. Starting with the things I liked, I would say that my favorite part was the bosses and the music that they're paired with. I mean, maybe not Cerner or Mystia, but like... Wait, Mystia? Oh my god, Mystia's from Touhou 8. It's actually Rumia, but everybody else is top-notch. I do like the way the color is used between and within the boss encounters. The bullets, the special effects, special backgrounds are colorized beautifully. Speaking of backgrounds, let's take meleeing Stage 3's boss as an example, since she has the best looking color in the background, of course. I like the dim spinning background, and it looks visually pleasing, but isn't flashy enough to be distracting, and ends to the wonderful splashes of color that meleeing's multicolored bullets that shine most during the final 2 spell cards. My god, that's Rainbow Sims. The background here also makes the abundant color really pop, as it's darker colored, which allows for all the brighter colored bullets being spewed everywhere to pop a little more and makes them a bit easier to see, which is always good when there's a lot of little ones being sprayed everywhere. I also like Sakia's mainly because it's spinning and stops when Sakia herself stops time. It really fits with her powers. The background itself is a red tinted stopwatch, which stops spinning when Sakia stops time, as I previously mentioned. Its red color works really well with it as a stark contrast to the bullets, which use much cooler colors, making it easier to see them, especially when they change direction. The red colors really add to how hectic the fight is, especially with the stopping of time and misguided bullets, and the bumpin' OST in the background. So of course, now that I mentioned the OST, I just have to mention that this, like the entirety of Touhou, has incredibly good OSTs, which will blow your expectations out of the water. This game in particular has the most iconic OST, with tracks such as You Would Know One Was Her and maybe Sakia's theme. It's also about time I addressed the elephant in this game, or in the room, which is the majority of the art, which, cough cough, didn't age very well. Let's start with the sprite art, which is serviceable. The enemies look quite good, and I mean, they do get copy-pasted from most of the games and sort of upscaled, but it's a bit weird. But yeah, they look good. They look kind of low-res in this game. I don't think it's through fault of its own, because I kind of had to upscale it using OBS because I couldn't figure out how to get the VSync patch working to get full screen native. So it kind of sucked a little. But, and our playable characters, Youyoumu and Marissa, kind of sing the same song as the enemies, but to a much greater degree. They look super blurry and low-res, like they're being improperly upscaled, which they kind of aren't, but they also kind of are, but I mean, like I mentioned, I was using OBS to upscale, so it could be different, but the game runs natively in 4x3, so it kind of doesn't make much sense that they still look a little blurry. And I think if it was being upscaled natively, it would, with the game's in-game upscreen, full screen function, they'd probably look the same. If not, then just yell at me in the comments. Now, the backgrounds still look great, as I mentioned before, but oh my god, I could never say the same thing about the infamous character and boss portrait art. Holy crap, this isn't just bad, it's impure, unbridled nightmare fuel. Stop it, they give me nightmares. To not give you nightmare fuel, or nightmares, I will talk about the story of this game. So during summer, a red mist envelops the sky and makes everything cold. So Youyoumu, or Marissa, depending on who you choose, goes out to find this source and stop the perpetrator. Then when the day is saved, you get an ending based on your character and shot type choice. But those aren't necessarily important because an unnatural rainstorm brews around the Scarlet Temple Mansion at the end of the game. So the extra stage commences. More on that later, but so now it's time for the general gameplay, which is really simple. You start with 2 bombs and 2 extra lives and gain more at certain score thresholds. You get lives at certain score thresholds, like I just mentioned, and for bombs, some mini-bosses that appear mid-stage drop one upon death. Before you even get into the game, you may choose between 2 characters, as I mentioned before. Reimu Hakure is one of them. She's a shrine maiden who is very lazy and has a super small hitbox. You can't see it in this game, but in later games that'll be fixed. She's got pretty alright bombs. They're not borderline bad, but they're definitely the worst in the game. And for our second character, we've got Marissa Kiryasame, a magician who lives in the forest. She's good friends with Youyoumu, has incredibly high power shot types, and has insane bombs. Except for her B shot type, that one kind of sucks, but she's got the big ass, badass laser Master Spark for A shot type. At least I think that's what it is. I don't know, I might be mixing them up, but like, whatever. But Marissa is kind of the unoptimal choice here because she's very fast. And she gets slower in later games, but that's not the point. Her movement also feels super slippery as you're playing as her. I don't know if it's just me or playing on controller or whatever. She just feels really slippery in this game. It's kind of hard to see in gameplay, but sometimes when you're moving around, it just feels like she slips and slides, and it's just really hard to get her where you want her to go because she's either moving too fast and has already run into a bullet, or she's just being unresponsive. But luckily, some of the later games, especially with 8 and 9, they really fix the movement. Because the movement code gets kind of revamped later on, But that's not relevant now because this is 6, not 10. Oh, and not only all these other gripes I have about Marissa, her hitbox is incredibly big for some reason. So hitbox clipping is kind of impossible. And you're going to be doing that a lot in this game. Because some of these bullets, their hitboxes are kind of bad. So that's why I definitely recommend getting the real hitboxes patch if you want to play this game. Especially with the high-res textures pack and maybe a couple other ones in Teach. Crap. Which is the Touhou Community Online Patcher. I think that's its name. But yeah, definitely use that to patch the game. Because it's not borderline unplayable without it. It's just harder. Like, really hard. Now, in-game, let's get into the game now, you can shoot things, and those things usually drop point or power cards. Point cards give points based on how far up the screen they're collected. Max points gained from point cards are determined by the difficulty. Also, if the numbers that you see for like the point gain is yellow, you know you got max points. On the other hand, power cards, as the name suggests, increase your power of your shots. The max power your shot can go to is 127, but if you collect any more than that, you enter full power mode. Full power mode powers up your shot one final time, and then clears the screen of bullets when it's achieved. Later games, I think, they alternate between doing this and not doing this. It's kind of weird. I'll cover on it when we get to that, but also, full power mode allows you to use the point of collection line, which is an invisible line toward the top of the screen that, when passed, will magnet all cards towards you, and most point cards will be given max point value. Also, while in full power mode, point cards you pick up will give points depending on how many power cards power cards will give increasing amounts of points depending on how many you pick up. And this caps at 51,200, I think. But it's still a really nice way to get points, and you will always get max value. Besides shooting things, you can enter focus mode, which kind of slows you down substantially and makes your shot kind of focused on one sort of spot. Get it? Focus? Anyway, when you enter a boss, they will have multiple bars of health that you need to shoot through to end the fight. And at certain health thresholds, the boss will activate a spell card, or special attack, that has a time limit and it takes less damage than normal health bars, which are referred to as non-spells. Spell cards are super susceptible to bombs, so if you want a speedrun, don't waste your bombs on the non-spells. Use them on the spell cards. Anyway, now for the 6 stages of the main game. This is kind of the beef of the game. So, stage 1 is simple and it's kind of boring, but it introduces the player to what I like to call dialogue that makes you say WTF out loud. Trademarked, of course. It's not trademarked, please steal. Take Marissa's conversation with Rumia, the yokai of the dust, as an example. So why are you stretching your arms like that? Doesn't it remind you of a saint crucified on a cross? It looks to me more like humankind is learning how to add. What the fuck? Yeah, WTF, exactly. Then stage 9, two. I said two. This is the home of Touhou's biggest meme, Cerno. She's a little ice fairy with some of the easiest stage 2 spell cards in the entire series. She's a joke. Anyway, the stage itself has a hectic race through the misty light, tons of hostile paper, and spinning things, shooting kunai knives everywhere. This is where Reimu's homing shot type would come in handy. This is the only time Reimu's homing shot type would come in handy. After the tree murder simulator, I reached the boss. Bakai 9 funny fairy, ha 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 lol. I'll deep freeze you with some English beef. What? Huh? So you were the cold one. Better than being hot, don't you think? Gee, that was a cool pun. What? What pun? Seriously, the writing for the dialogue in this game is absolutely horrendous. It could be the translation, but probably not. Anyway, for Cerno's boss, it's probably the easiest stage 2 boss stage there is. As I said before. For example, in her first spell card, Ice Sign Icicle Fall, you barely have to move, and the spell card doesn't have enough health to last long enough for the ice on the outside to fully collapse on the player to make this difficult. Oh, don't even mention the small burst yellow bullets, because they move far too slow to be a threat. After that, you got Perfect Freeze, which is 100% capturable without moving, I guarantee you. Perfect Freeze shoots a semi-fast-thing rainbow bullets that freeze mere seconds before they hit you. Then they slowly float away, or towards you, because it's straight up random where they go. Yeah, I did forget to mention this game has a lot of random bullet patterns. That will be definitely fixed in later games, I guarantee it. After that whole easy mode, you go to Stage 3, which takes place just outside the Scarlet Devil Mansion. Whoever you are playing as is trying to get in. But its bodyguard, Mei Ling, ain't having none of it. So Mei Ling's definitely the boss for this stage. Before you get to her though, the game throws a lot of relatively easy enemies in the general direction. And they are generally uninteresting. Skipping straight to Mei Ling, she fires lots of multicolored bullets for basically all her spell cards, and they're kinda random, but they look pretty cool. Especially Rainbow Sign, Rainbow Wind Chime. I like specifically how the bullets look toward the top. They look a little more dense toward the top of the screen. Other than two cool spell cards, Mei Ling is kind of easy. But now here is where the game has a major spike in difficulty. This is where you might start to die a little bit, or use bombs if you haven't already. Or you're just good like me and don't need either, because you played lots of Touhou before. The whole shindig here is that your character of choice has made it into the mansion via the library, and the boss, Patchouli, has found your character of choice. The stage is incredibly difficult with normal enemies firing lots of aim spread bullets flying towards you. Laser books everywhere, and books that send insane amounts of bullets everywhere. At the end of the stage 4, you're found by Patchouli, who attacks with spell cards, which are different depending on the character and shot type you chose. I don't think the difficulty differs very much between the differing spell cards, but it's kind of cool that this was added in. Patchouli's spell cards are really dense and have a normal speed. I did like spell cards like Emerald Megalith and the Fire one. Patchouli is a fun boss overall, but her dialogue is kind of whacked out though. On to the 5th stage, where your character of choice is flying through the final part of the mansion. Here we are, met with lots of fast, dense patterns of bullets which will destroy you if you aren't ready for them. Unless you want to spam your very limited stock of bombs, because there aren't very many bosses that actually want to give you bombs in this game.
Hey bro, watch your jet. Watch your jet, bro. Watch your jet!
We meet Hell Incarnate, USD's Sakia. It seems we interrupted her cleaning, so she throws us her most difficult spell card at us. Strange Art, Misdirection. First, Sakia sends a barrage of easy bullets your way, which kinda lock you in, and then she sends a really fast volley of knives, which always kill me. I don't even know how people beat it. It's kinda weird. I think the first volley of bullets are aimed, so it's easier if you try to misdirect them, but I don't know. I never did it. I kinda just spam bombs to kill it. Skipping past the difficult normal enemies, we get to every Nightmare Incarnate. Besides her crappy character art, Sakia is a fun boss thanks to her time-stopping gimmick. Illusion Existence, Gaunt Corpse, is probably my favorite spell card because of the way it uses the time stop. Sakia shoots a volley of rice bullets and stops time and summons a whole bunch of knives that are aimed at you. Some are set in a pattern that pan out as they fly for a bit. All of this together makes for a really fun spell card. The other notable spell card of Sakia is Maid's Secret Skill, Marionette. This is her final one in normal mode. In this spell card, Sakia sends a bunch of knives in a box-like shape, then sends most of them in a random direction. But here's the catch. A majority of the knives bounce off the sides of the screen, so they redirect in again after the next volley of bullets. So things get pretty dense and pretty hectic pretty quick, and it's a pretty cool one to look at. And dodge. Now, for what y'all been waiting for in this 6th stage roundup. Stage 6. Your character of choice has made it to the denizens of the mansion and has found the big bad Valorant smoker herself, Remilia's Scarlet. Let's get to the chase here. This stage itself isn't even the point of the stage. The enemies don't matter. The mid-boss doesn't matter. Sakia does make another appearance here and attempts to, and I quote, "I've got to at least make you waste a bomb before the mistress gets mad at me." Oh, Undertale. Get out some pen and paper. Take some notes. So, Sakia probably maybe makes you waste a bomb by the time you reach Emilia, but that's okay because she drops one. And you won't need that many here. If you came with at least one life, of course. The first notable spell card here is Dark Sign Scarlet Netherworld. I just like it because in some footage of the game, it sort of looks like the bullets have after images. And actually, I did a bit of research, and they kind of do. See, it's just really hard to see in-game. Or at least it was hard for me to see, but I digress. The spell card itself is actually pretty difficult because the multiple things you have to dodge at once. First, you got the bullets coming right at you, and there's slower bullets moving in a certain pattern above you, and then you have to dodge while doing the faster stuff, and it's pretty difficult. But an honorable mention here is her last non-spell, which isn't a spell card, but it's an honorable mention, so it counts. This one sort of reminds me of a boss from a later game in the series, so keep this one in mind. What this non-spell does is shoots bullets in a pattern, then goes invulnerable for a couple seconds, and fires tons of big bullets, and becomes shootable, and then fires another pattern, and so on. It's cool, I swear. And it's kind of interesting because no other character does this till Touhou 10. But keep that in mind for Touhou 10. I'll bring that up when it comes over. And then for the final spell card, Red Magic. This spell card is sort of like one of Vermilion's previous spell cards, Curse of Tepes. Or Tepes, or Tepes, I don't know, it's kind of weird. That one fires knives at you that spawn literally bullets that wave around and stuff, and it's actually really cool to look at. Red Magic is like that, but instead of knives, it's big-ass bullets, and this time, they're everywhere. Also, this spell card has lots of health. This fact sort of makes the whole thing harder to beat, but still not too bad. Now that was a climactic finish. Let's talk about the endings now. I'm only going to cover the endings that I myself got, so I'm not going to cover endings for every single shot type, because we'd be here for slightly longer than I anticipate. And then I'd have to do it for all the games, and it'd just suck a little. Because there soon becomes a lot of them. Like, a lot. So, we're going to start with Youyoumu, with her B shot type. So, after Youyoumu stops Vermilia from valoranting the entirety of Gensokyo, she's lazing around her shrine, the Hakurei Shrine. Out of nowhere, Vermilia shows up and hugs Youyoumu from behind and tells her ghost stories. Okay. Again, reinforcing the sentiment that the writing in this game is odd. For Marissa and her B-shot type, oh looky here, the Touhou wiki explains this part in a funny way. Well, that sure makes my job easier. Hippity hoppity, your hard work is now my property. Okay, so it says here. Marissa B's ending has her reading a book in the mansion's library when Sakuya comes up and kindly reminds her that she is, in fact, trespassing on private property. Upon hearing Vermilia, the maid, Sakuya hides Marissa. She then discusses plans for getting rid of quote-unquote rats with Vermilia. And Sakuya reminds her to bring a parasol when she goes out. Sakuya lets it slip that the rat is still alive. Wait, so is it implied that Marissa's still a rat? That actually was funny, seeing Rat the Hat firing massive lasers and things while flying around on a broomstick. Some idiot that isn't me should totally make that. So this leaves one thing, the extra stage. The extra stage is an incredibly difficult stage that is about as long as half the base game. This is because the boss at the end of the stage usually has about 1 trillion health bars. By God. This extra stage is no exception to this. It, however, is exceptionally difficult. This extra stage has you fighting Vermilia's sister, Flandre, sporting the most iconic music track of all time, which you should be hearing right now. Flandre has really difficult spell cards that look like it's some fun, but I just can't beat it. Or any of the extra stage for that matter, or at least most of them, so I probably won't be mentioning them very much, but of course I will talk about them, cover them a little bit. Here though, I do have a favorite spell card. Since it's really early on, it was easy to get into it. Taboo Levatine. Or is it Levatine? I don't know. I like to call it Levatine. First off, the name Levatine. It's just badass, and it's pretty fitting because this one looks pretty cool. The spell card is basically this. Flandre flings this massive flame storm around that sprays bullets everywhere as it goes, and it's hella cool. I just suck at it though. And that's kind of about it for Touhou 6 because I have run out of things to cover here. On to Touhou 7. I like Touhou 7. It's memorable, most of the bosses are fun to fight, and the music is pretty good.
First, I want to talk about what this game added to the gameplay fundamentals, but I need to preface this by saying that there's going to be at least one main fundamental change to the gameplay that usually applies to one game only. These fundamental changes, or gimmicks as I call them, may or may not make a return in later installments in the series. Now for the main changes, 1, you may now view your hitbox while focusing. This one is a permanent change, and it is really good. Because last game, it was really difficult to hitbox clip reliably, because sometimes you would die without knowing where your hitbox is, and you would die in seemingly really random ways, and it was pretty hard to dodge stuff. But now it's much easier. Now, shot types are 2-in-1 deals. What I mean by that is, you have 2 shot types that you can switch between by focusing and unfocusing. You also have 2 bombs. Activating the one you want is pretty easy. Just focus or defocus, and bomb to get your desired effect. The game gives you the illusion that the unfocused bombs are worse because they are unaimed and generally do less damage, but that sentiment is incorrect. Take Marissa's B shot type, for example. It fires 3 non-directional lasers that spin. Simple, right? Toward the bottom of the screen, this is pretty ineffective, unless you want to clear the whole screen of bullets, but who wants to do that? But if you decide to Kamikaze Death Bomb an enemy spell card, it completely nukes it and it dies instantly. And yeah, this goes for all unfocused bombs that shoot lots of unaimed bullets. Spell card nuclear bombs they are. Now for the main gimmick, the cherry meter. Gauge? Bar? Whatever. This determines the maximum point value gained from point in the new cherry cards. As you shoot and do other stuff, you gain cherry, the number on the left, and that is your current max point value. The number on the right is the highest value you can increase your point cards to. To supplement this, there is now a new type of card you can pick up. Cherry cards. They give boost to your Cherry and Cherry Plus. Cherry Plus is an independent value that goes up at the same rate as Cherry, but caps 50,000 to give you a supernatural border. A supernatural border gives you a shield for a couple seconds that allows you to take a hit without actually dying. On top of that, it magnets all items on screen towards you, and you will always get full point value for them. And if and when you don't get hit or explode the barrier by pressing the bomb button, it'll give you a massive point bonus when the barrier gets out. It also gives an extra 1.5 seconds of iframes. You may also press the bomb button to blow up the barrier, which functions virtually as a bomb, but it doesn't deal damage to bosses. I found this to be really helpful for some of the harder spell cards, but it usually didn't show up at the more crucial moments, unless you time it right. See, with the supernatural border, if you shoot specific things or collect specific cards, and do things at specific times, you'll be able to time when you're going to get your border. If you time it right, you can get the border at crucial moments, which can really come in clutch for some parts, especially the final spell card if you're not great at it, although it's pretty easy. I'll get back to that one later. Anyway, the cherry value dictates point card value. So if you want score, you're going to want to reach max cherry pretty fast, which in this game is called cherry max. Believe it or not, your cherry max can be increased by letting borders time out and grazing all the borders up. To end the gameplay changes, your method of gaining lives is different now. You actually have to collect a certain amount of point cards to gain lives. This is tracked to the right side of the screen. Virtually, if you want lives and want to bum, you're going to want to bum the top of the screen to get as many point and cherry cards as possible, to get as many lives as possible. I was able to get about max lives by stage 3, which is pretty crazy. This is also one of the reasons why many say this game is the easiest in the series. Now for the story, which I wouldn't say isn't all that different from the last game. This time it's all about the season instead of a random mist covering the sky. This time it's all about the seasons. This definitely won't be revisited in a later game. Definitely not. Definitely not. Cough cough. Touhou 16. Wait, what? Anyway, winter is staying for an incredibly long time, and it should be spring by now. So then your character of choice goes to stop winter. This time, instead of having only 2 character choices, you have 3. The Menace, returning from last game, Sakia Izayoi joins the fray. Her B-shot type is the best homing shot in this game. Its range is high and its damage is unrivaled. It also comes with probably the best bombs in the entire game. Also, Sakia comes with an extra bomb than Reimu, and Marissa also loses a bomb for whatever reason. This game looks substantially better than its predecessor, especially with the character portraits. They actually look cute in some cases, like they should. And to be honest, this is my favorite iteration of Zun's art style. This time I didn't have to use OBS to upscale my game because of compatibility errors, and my report in the in-game textures is just about the same as last game. They look subpar at best, but I like the attention to detail with some of the animations. An example would be Marissa's hat flopping around, depending on which direction she's moving. Reimu's, skirt, whatever that is, stays left or right depending on how she last moved, and when she comes to a complete stop. And Sakuya has it best. She has a little white dot above her actual hitbox, which adds to the argument that Sakuya is the best character in this game, objectively of course. Let's talk shot types. And this game has it really good. Let's start with Reimu. She basically has the same shots as last game for unfocused, but when you focus, things get good. With her homing shot, you get a fast-firing amulet attack that does okay damage, but is the only other one besides Sakuya's. Reimu's other one is the fastest firing shot type we've probably ever seen from Touhou, and probably is one of the most damaging we've seen from Reimu as a whole. This shot shoots one stream of incredibly fast needles, and 3 streams of amulets that require you to shotgun for all of them to hit. This does immensely high damage and melts enemy non and spell cards, and this is a blessing because this game starts the super annoying trend of enemy spell cards getting incredibly high amounts of health, and especially in later stages. Stages 5 and 6 in this game are perfect examples of this. In this game in particular, I find the non-spells have a bit too much health too sometimes, but that isn't as bad as the spell cards. What's unfortunate about this is this. This isn't the only game where this trend is followed. Marissa's shot types are basically the same as last game. First, you have Haha Funny Infinite Penetration, which gives Marissa really high and the literal nuclear level focused and unfocused bombs. On the other side of the spell card spectrum, you have Magic Missile from the last game, and the enemy repellent Magic Napalm, or as I like to call it, Magic Napalm. Ad break. It's time for the regularly scheduled quiz show. Okay, viewers, here's your question. What does napalm mean, or napalm? This word was used literally 5 seconds ago. Is it A, something unpleasant, B, jello, or C, something used in actual fucking explosives? If you picked C, you are correct one. Here's your reward. Let's go incendiary. That was weird. Magic Napalm is probably the highest damaging shot type in the game, so I recommend, although its bombs are pretty subpar, so use at risk. Speaking about Marissa, I found out why her movement felt so bad in the last game. It was the controller support, which is only halfway true, but the base controller's dead zone was making movement really difficult, and with Marissa's speed, making beating the game with her almost impossible. But I fixed it, with messing with a couple settings or two and repatching the game with TH crap. And that checks out. This game excels in the music department, so I'm going to talk about my favorite tracks and why I like them. Let's start with the first stage boss, Lady White Rock. So here's Zun's comment for this one. A goal of my music is to subtly blend Japanese and Western elements together. Applies to other songs too. This one's short because it's the theme for the Stage 1 boss, but I managed to express my image of the realm within this theme. While the song is direct, it's a strange one that doesn't fit into any music genre. This came from thpatch.net. Go check them out. I actually like the fact that this song is short because it doesn't need to be. It's a Stage 1 boss. And I like how the song introduces the Sun Pit. It captures a feel of a wintry forest biome like intended, like the whole stage looks. It's also a very catchy tune, which makes it pretty memorable. Take a listen. I also like Alice from Stage 3's theme. This is Zun's comment. This is Alice Margatroyd's theme. Alice is kind of a special character in this series, so I composed the theme with renewed vigor. Not that I was lazy with the other songs. This theme's goal is to show that the character's peace of mind despite the intensity of the fight. The peace of the mind shows their virtue, in my opinion. The virtue is not the gothic Lolita costumes, I swear. I'd say this song really achieves what Zun was going for here. Peace of mind despite a chaotic battle. The beginning of this song really shows the chaotic part, and halfway through it transitions to the peace of mind, more epic and less chaotic sounding part. This song is really epic, and dodging hundreds of bullets with it in the background is amazing. Take that listen. I also love Youmu's theme. Here's Sun's note. This is Koumakyou's theme. I tried to express both a tough opponent and childishness with this theme. Perhaps this is the most boss-like theme in the game. While it does use guitars, I gave up trying to make it sound like rock music almost immediately. This hook's melody resembles the yokai. Don't take my word for this one, just listen to it. If I were to cover all the rest of my favorite tracks in this game, I would never be able to reach this video in a timely fashion. So let's move on. This game definitely doesn't do color as good as its predecessor, but I would give it a pass because the rest of the art is much better than before. Anyway, it's time for the bulk of this section, the 6 stages in the main game. So your character of choice starts in some wintry forest-like area. No less than a minute in, she gets attacked by Cerno, the ass fairy from last game. It seems that she was so pathetic that she got downgraded to stage 1 mid-boss. Ha. Fairies are truly useless. If you're playing on hard mode or you lunatic, she has a spell card. Still pretty easy though. After getting almost max power off of the denizens of the forest, you encounter Letty Whiterock, one of my favorite stage 1 boss encounters of all time. The fight is flashy, fast, and might kill you on higher difficulties. I said might. Stage 2 is cat. That's it. Cat. Chen isn't really my favorite. I'll at least say that Immortal stage is rumbling. Or whatever the hard and lunatic modes are. I don't know. I don't care. It has way too much health for the amount of time Chen is invulnerable, because she's basically invulnerable while she's moving, and it's really difficult to hit her. Even Sakuya's B-shot type doesn't actually lock on very well in this fight, and it usually ends up falling right behind her instead of actually hitting her like it should. It's kind of stupid. Stage 2 is uneventful apart from the bomb that boss Chen drops. Stage 3 marks the return of Alice Murgatroyd from the PSC 98 games. This stage is unique because it's one of the shortest stage 3s in the series. Not only that, this stage gives you 2 mid-bosses, one of which being at the beginning of the stage, making it not really that much of a mid-boss, and the other being set to be the actual halfway point, and drops a life. This stage is also unique because most of your lives will come from it, because of the amount of point cards that the enemies drop you, especially with the forgor or homing shot type. Yeah, Sakuya's B shot type really just locks down every enemy. They will probably die to it really fast. Your firepower just pins them easy. On normal difficulty. Hard mode it's a bit harder, but normal difficulty. Eventually you're going to reach the boss, Alice Murgatroyd. Notable spell cards include Foggy London Dolls, which sends a cool pattern of medium to fast speed bullets in bursts which overlap with each other, adding faster bullets to the slower ones. The top of the screen is the cool part. It looks actually really cool. It makes the whole pattern part of this fight, of the spell card. The other one is Eerily Loomis Shanghai Dolls 2. Yes, before anybody asks, this is a hard mode spell card, because its normal mode counterpart is pretty underwhelming compared to it, and I also managed to play through most of hard mode, no problem. So I want to capitalize on this opportunity to talk about hard mode, because I'm probably not going to be playing hard or lunatic mode for at least 80% of these games, so I'm probably going to really capitalize it on the games that I can play it in. Anyway, this card is crazy to the top and considerably more simple to the bottom. Honestly, it just looks cool. That's the whole reason why I like it. It really is just cool. Stage 4 is very long. Like very, very long. And the difficulty also spikes considerably here. Like by a considerably large margin. Just like the last game, and games to come. Difficulty curve has gone out of the window. This stage is also really difficult if you don't know the way of streaming. The main thing for this stage is that you can get 2 bombs from enemies. The one from Lily White, which is the stock-based pattern artist, and another from the fairy with lots of health at the very end. Next is the boss, or bosses, because there are 3 of them. Now, depending on who you talk to, people either say that the Prism River Sisters here, who are the bosses, are the easiest stage 4 bosses ever or the hardest, and I reckon this is because you can sort of choose which boss you want to fight after the first 2 non-spells, depending on character choice and the first spell card, which will always be the same, but the order the sisters stand in is dependent on character choice, potentially messing with you fighting the sister you want. You can pick by dealing the most damage to the sister you want to fight. I personally think Lyrica, the one in red, is the easiest to fight out of the 3 of them based on her non-spells alone, which are probably the easiest I've seen from Stage 4. At the end of Stage 4, your character runs into a barrier which holds the Netherworld, where all the spring is being held. Because, remember, we're here to bring back spring. Canonically, Reimu flat out destroys the barrier even though she didn't have to, because she could have just flown over it. On to Stage 5. At this point, you probably have max lives, which is pretty good. But the mid-stage boss Youyoumu is going to take at least 2 of you, because she's pretty hard. Mid-boss gives a life, and it's okay difficulty-wise, but the boss is pretty hard. To prove this statement, let's take a look at the hard mode spell card, Asura Sword, Worldly Attachment. Now you might look at this and wonder what the actual fish flip-flop is actually happening. First, bullets fly from the sides in reverse direction if they're hit by Youyouumu's lingering vertical slashes, and also some become fast and homing. Honestly, I died at this one because of the sheer amount of crap being chucked at you here. And this applies to the entire Youyoumu fight, but in Youyouumu's spell cards, Shido slows down time to make the spell card possible, but sometimes it doesn't help and just comes in flat out way too late and you die anyway. A good example of this is Hellrealm Sword, 200 Yojana in 1 slash. So this spell card, Youyoumu cuts big things into small things, and that goes into random positions and places, and right when you need time slow, it comes right after the small thing. It comes right after the small things actually completely bombard and circle you. Or you just decide to bomb the bottom of the screen and play to God, the small stuff don't encircle and trap you, making it impossible for you to get out. Brute Sword, Karmic Punishment, is my favorite of Youyouumu's spell cards. Look at it, it's so much easy and fun. After Youyoumu explodes in a fiery explosion, which totally wasn't our fault, haha Game Champ reference, now for the final act of this show, the final stage, Stage 6. After a brief encounter with the one that should be dead, and partially is, your character of choice reaches the cool tree blah 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 lore, Youyoumu. Chicken Eater, Cartman Incarnate. Actually, that's not what she looks like. She looks like this, and her fight is actually pretty cool. I think it really could use a bit of work. I think this fight really proves my point about the spell card health bars being incredibly high for no reason. At least half of them I could see have way too much health for what they are. Let's start with the first one, Losing Hometown, Village of Self-Loss Past Sin. This spell card forces you to one side of the screen with this big-ass laser, and forces you to run right into the wavy bullets to the opposite side of it. All while the bullet spewer 9000 over here stands right smack dab in the middle where characters without homing shot types can barely hit her. This spell card is where speedruns go to die, because this spell card has lots of health, and if you're not running a homing shot type, you'll have to dodge it for a pretty long time. Oh, and did I mention that the laser goes farther and farther every time it fires? And it fires instantly after every single time. After it dissipates, it fires instantly, and it goes at a pretty quick speed, so you're forced to run to the other side of the map, and you're probably going to get hit at some point. And albeit, it does this a bit slow, but without a homing shot type, it has all the time in the world to come around and get you. But with Sakia A, this spell card is super easy because you can just run to the opposite side of the laser and hug the side of the screen to only dodge the non-wavy bullets while still doing damage. Next defender in the court is actually a non-spell. The last one, in fact. As you can see, Youyoumu spews tons of streams of bullets that you need to dodge while Youyoumu decides that she wants to move. So she does, and moves constantly at the top of the screen, so clearing this non is incredibly annoying because it takes a really long time to deal with without homing. I think it takes like 20 to 30 seconds, especially on most casual playthroughs that aren't speedrunning. The next spell card offender is Subtle Melody, Repository of Hirakawa, Ghost. The spell card sends a pattern of bullets that seem easy but become pretty stupid hard when the next stream of bullets come in. This stream is several barrages of aim bullets that push you right into the other stream of bullets, and a lot of the bullets on stream are so slow that they persist even through multiple rounds of barrages. While all this is happening, Youyoumu is moving everywhere and has tons of health, and Enough of the offenders. Let's just talk about the infamous one. Flowery Soul, Swallowtail Butterfly. So in this one, you get chased by this tactical nuke that nukes in a circle of bullets, and even before it explodes, it will kill you on contact, so you need to watch where you move. This is especially true when you realize that the amount of other bullets that fly towards you while all of this is happening. It might seem hard, but it really isn't. Just do what I do here. Keep moving and stay a little way away from the nuke, and make major movements when the nuke is exploding, because it is completely stationary there. And if you need to, you can just hitbox clip at the bottom of the map for just a second, so you can not die to the nuke. So after you take out the final spell card, which is pretty easy by the way, you win. Oh, great. So Youyou's most famous spell card, and the first main game use of a timeout spell, unless I'm forgetting something that isn't an extra stage boss, because extra stage bosses don't count, they're not part of the main game. This one is easy. The part that usually gets people is the red bullets. And what you need to do for them is take them before they split, because if you wait for them to split, things can get hard and you will die. I mean, unless you're just better at the game. As long as you can take the red bullets, you can clear this spell card. Because the burst of blue and other colors aren't actually very difficult, unless you fumble. But that's what bombs are for. After like 60 seconds, you win, and spring is returned to Earth. Yay. So after that, the extra stages happen. Yes, you heard me. I didn't stutter. This game has 2 extra stages. The first is definitely a step up in level design from the last extra stage, but I think it relies way too much on massive amounts of streaming and homing bullets. Though I think half of the stage is just homing bullets, and I'd say this will probably be the same for some of the other extras, so yeah. That's okay though, because these are just extras. Anyway, the boss for the first extra stage is Ram Yakumo, and she happens to be the master of Chen, the second boss in the main game. Not only that, she's a Shikigami, or I guess servant or something, to the other extra stage boss, everybody's favorite Yukari Yakumo. I wish I could go in depth with Yukari's fight and stage, but I never managed to unlock it and didn't bother to look up any of the unlock codes to get it, so oof. Even if I did that, this video would never have gotten out, because I know that Yukari's stage, the Phantasm, or whatever it is incredibly difficult. Maybe if somebody watching comments about this, I might do a video on the stuff I missed, like probably the majority of the extra stages and Lunatic mode. So, Touhou 7 was a fantastic entry in the Touhou series that really set in motion how the other entries would go and how the gimmicks and improvements would work, and most importantly, music and art. This is where the music and art really gets good. And after Touhou 10, Zun really gets his signature art style down. Although I would wish it'd be kind of cool if he changed the art style just a little bit every game, but I do like the one he's got going now. I think it looks pretty alright. Anyway, this game is pretty good. It's got really good replay value because of the extra stages and the normal mode being generally easier than most of the other games in the series, which encourages players to try the harder difficulties and potentially start with less lives, because this is one of the early games that actually give you the option of how many lives and bombs you want to start with. The OST here is incredibly good, and I recommend you take a listen because the tracks here are phenomenal, and even the extra MIDI versions of the OST are really interesting and are available on YouTube right now. The restored versions of the MIDIs, because the in-game MIDIs are actually pretty bad. And that's because they're not being played properly, I assume. At least that's what I think it is. I don't know that much about them, but I know they're not being played properly, because that's what I heard about it. Anyway, they're available on YouTube, so I recommend that. Youmu's MIDI track is definitely my favorite. It's really good, I like it, recommend listen. The art here is leagues better than the Nightmare Fuel that was last game. The characters look cute this time instead of downright and the backgrounds for the actual stages themselves are actually pretty good. It looks like you're going somewhere in the stages and traversing the land to find the culprit of a stolen spring. And better yet, this dialogue got a massive increase in quality too. It's now actually funny in some cases, and the translation isn't actually loads of shit unlike the last game. Now that could have been my doing though, because I never went back to patch Touhou 6 with TH crap, so that might be the reason why the translate was so shit. But the dialogue in that game was whack as fuck, and that's a fact. And I didn't talk about the dialogue in this game because it's been fixed. It's much better, and I recommend you go read it on the TouhouWiki.net. Go check that out. They've got all the dialogue. They've got extra stuff, and they put it in a really good readable format, so it's easier to read, and you can fully grasp the story that way. And it also shows all the endings. I didn't cover the endings here because I actually found out that in Zun's guidelines or something at some point he said to not share the endings, so we're not doing that this time. And come on, that kind of removes some of the purpose of playing and beating the game on a 1cc, so go do that if you want to find the story. Now to take a bit of a detour to talk about Touhou's first side game, Touhou 7.5, which won't be nearly as predictable as you'd think.
Okay. I absolutely hate this game. Like, actually, seriously, really. This game is probably one of the worst games I've played in a while. Or at least one of the games I haven't enjoyed. Like, my least enjoyed game in a long time. And I haven't even told you the name of the game yet. Touhou 7.5, Immaterial and Missing Power. It is the first of the fighting games made by Zun and Twilight Frontier, and it shows. By God, this game pardon the French. I really, really hated playing this game. Why, you ask? Well, the controls are incredibly rigid, combos are non-existent because the attacks are incredibly slow, range attacks are overpowered, blocking is overpowered, dashing sucks, spell cards in general. And I hate practically everything about this game. And to really lay down how bad this game is, let me go into excruciating depth and detail about basically everything in this game. Starting with the basic gameplay. So you have your little physical attacks by pressing A and B without any input to the movement. You also get access to ranged attacks, which is the whole gimmick of most of these fighting games that Zun made. You access these ranged attacks by pressing right A or B at the same time. And these are major league overpowered. They deal almost as much damage as a physical combo, or the closest thing you get to it in this game, which is clipping with Saki's kick attack. Because it's only supposed to hit once, but it happens to kick and hit someone twice every once in a while because hitbox clipping. It's weird. Anyway, yeah, bullets can be thrown from anywhere, and if you try to block while holding the direction opposite your enemy, you get hit with tons of knockback. And sometimes when there's lots of bullets on screen, that knockback can fly you all the way up into the air. And it takes from your spirit gauge. More on that later. Now, throwing your ranged attacks does cost spirit, the blue bar. And if you run out, you are unable to use any ranged attacks, and you can't block any attacks, at all. You will still take a minuscule amount of damage from each attack, even if it's blocked properly. Because if you're blocking while standing perfectly up, and someone hits you with a perfectly forward attack, it's properly blocked. If somebody tries to hit you with a low attack, or like a low kick or something, while you're blocking upwards, it'll induce a wrong block state, which costs lots of spirit and makes you take a little bit of damage. Same thing occurs for when you're blocking bullets, except it won't put you in wrong block state. Yeah, kinda weird. At least that's the way it works in some of the later games. I'm not really sure about this one, because it's kinda hard to tell if you're in wrong block or not in this game. Because there's no extra sound. There's no different sound effect for it. It's dumb. Yeah. Spirit feels pretty quick though. It doesn't really matter, just as long as you hit someone and clear a bunch of their bullets. Because if you are hit while some of your bullets on screen, all of them will clear and turn into point cards, which fills up your enemy's spell card gauge, which fills up their spirit gauge. So if you hit an enemy with tons of bullets on screen that are actually clearable, it will clear those bullets and give you a whole bunch of spirit back. It's kind of annoying. Get hit with literally any attack, and all of your attacks are gone. In the pause menu, you're actually given your character's list of attacks usable with certain movement or button key combos. Most of these are kind of impossible to use normally with the controller for whatever the hell reason, because I never really got any to work at all, when I wanted, of course.
Oh yeah, you may also notice the bomb thing right next to the spirit meter. You can activate one of these useless bombs by pressing down twice and then dash, which makes a thing around you that instantly knocks over an enemy and deals absolutely no damage. Yeah, you heard me. The bomb deals no damage. And it is not different depending on which character you play as either. It is completely the same. And sometimes when you knock over an enemy or hit them really hard, it will give you an extra bomb back. And you're never going to be using these, ever. It's not useful. I mean, maybe if we want to try to combo somebody, but I've never used it to do that, because the combos are so hard in this game. Yeah. Oh, and that's not it about the bomb. There are so many things about this game's iteration of the bomb garbage, and I've already spoke about most of it. And one of its main things that are terrible about it is its range. It is so small that you have to be practically in hugging range for the bomb to actually hit. Now you might think about spell cards, considering that bombs aren't spell cards like they were in previous games, and later games of course. So let me talk about spell cards. It's the most convoluted mechanic in the game, which is weird because spell cards are a main staple of Touhou. So before you play a match, or story mode of course, you pick which spell cards you want to be using, but actually using them in a fight is really, really stupid. And it made me feel like a dumbass when I finally figured it out. I had to do a couple Google searches to figure out, because the game does not tell you this at all. Now, granted, the game doesn't tell you how to use bombs in previous games, but you could figure that out by mashing. But like with this game, oh no, you're never gonna figure it out. Yeah, the combo list doesn't tell you how to activate your spell card, although it gives a button combo for using your spell card after you've activated it, which also was convoluted. It's really confusing and stupid. It's annoying. Okay, let me actually explain how to use these. So to use a spell card, you have to activate it by pressing down, down, dash, which activates one of the spell cards you picked. It activates one of the spell cards you have, depending on your HP. In all modes, you got 2 health bars per life. And if you're still in the first one, you'll activate your first spell card you picked, which is usually weaker than the second you've picked, which is activated when you're on your last health bar. So after activating your spell card, you don't automatically use it. So you need to input a whole nother combo of inputs to use it. And that's where the combos list comes in. Inputting the right combo after using your spell card is pretty important, which sucks because this kinda is hard for controller users. But with some practice I managed to get it. And at this point I was thinking that the game was dropping inputs, because a lot of the times I would try inputting the combo and I would swear I do it right, but it just wouldn't activate. That's because the spell cards cost a little weird circle meter in the bottom left. It costs 1 of that meter to use a spell card. It's also really annoying. When you actually activate a spell card, it also heals you for a little bit. Yeah. It's really, really annoying. It's crappy. And since this is it was such a hard mechanic to grasp, I had no idea that this even existed, and this is the only fighting game I'll actually do the story mode in, because at this time I had figured that I was just going to do story mode for everything. I had no idea what was going on for this one, so I ended up CCing the normal mode of story mode with absolutely no spell cards, and I never used any bombs. It was pain. It was pain. Yeah, so in story mode, your enemies have undisclosed amounts of health bars, and most consist of shitty spell cards that require mastery and lots of previous knowledge to beat, especially in a timely manner. Oh yeah, and when I say shitty, I mean it, because some of these spell cards are immensely difficult to dodge, and some are practically impossible to beat without taking damage. Looking at you, Youyoumu. Some you can completely counter with hit stun, while others you just can't hit stun at all. It's really inconsistent. And some just throw way too much crap at you. Looking at you, Suika and Yukari. Worse yet, your moveset consists of lots of slow to medium attacks. Slow to medium speed attacks, at least for Sakuya and Reimu. If I had to say one good thing about this game, it would be that the art is definitely better than some of the previous games, but it still isn't great because of Vermilia. Her hair, it's blue. That's disgusting. Remy is my favorite in the fighting games besides Sakuya and Reimu, and Marissa of course, but I never unlocked her in this game because the game just sucks to play. What you have to do to unlock her is beat her in the main game. So not only could you not play as Sakuya to get her, you have to play as Reimu and get all the way to stage 5 and then beat her. Yeah. It's yeah, don't expect any harder lunatic spell cards because I don't care enough to play this game more than one time. Oh, and I won't be covering any other character story campaigns other than Sakuya's for the same reason. This game sucks and I really don't care. Stage 1 puts you in front of the Hakurei Shrine, Reimu's shrine of course. Sakuya is here because of the Night Parade of 10,000 Demons, a feast which is supposed to celebrate the cherry blossoms blooming or something. So I guess Touhou 7 had a part in this? Sakuya is here because she sensed a mysterious key in the air, and wants to beat the shit out of Reimu because she seems suspicious when all she was doing was nudging Sakuya to donate. Sakuya proceeds to fight Reimu. Reimu's spell cards consist of attacks that are easy to block. Here is also where you realize that dashing through some range attacks, and by some I mean all, is practically impossible. Like in Reimu's first spell card, Fantasy Seal. The dash kind of sucks, so you'll only be dashing through half of the Rainbow Balls of Death before you get Wamo Comet into Oblivion. Yeah, that stage is pretty easy though. As long as you know what to do, keep your distance, you're good. Onward to stage 2. Sakuya is headed into the Forest of Magic to get to Marissa's house, but instead gets to Alice's instead and comments on its uncleanliness, which makes Alice come out, and then Sakuya tries to get some directions from Alice, but Alice wants to fight because Sakuya hit up the wrong house. And so they fight. Beating Alice is a matter of getting her stuck in hit stun so that she can't use her bullcrap spell cards. Looking at you, Artful Sacrifice. Or spell card 1, I guess. Afterwards, Sakuya gets to Marissa's house and comments on how there are no customers at Marissa's magic shop. Then they say some other stuff and they fight. It's Marissa's kind of the same as Alice, on the sense that you just have to keep smacking her with his stun. That's until you get to the Wish Leylene ripoff. Whatever the hell this one where she gets in her broom. And yeah. This is also probably the first major spell card that can really mess you up when you realize it doesn't take any hit stun. None. Zilch. Nada. Technically, Artful Sacrifice had this too when Alice was winding up her attack. But here, the second Marissa hits the ground, or gets up after you attack her when she hits the ground, she becomes completely immune to all hit stun. Range attacks work incredibly well here, especially because their damage in this game is far higher than the others I've played. Next is Youyoumu. I have nothing to say about dialogue because her actual fight is incredibly annoying. First spell card. I'll duplicate myself and attack 16 billion times in a minute. God, please help me. In all seriousness, this card, Double Pain, is just retarded. A cool idea for sure, but horridly executed. Need I explain why this is bad? Double the attacks, one attack coming slightly later than the other, which messes you up when you try to attack. And not only that, I was watching back the recording for this, right? And completely off screen, no way of blocking it. I got real Youyoumu to the left, fake Youyoumu to the right. You can't see her to the right. She comes from right from behind me, hits me with a sword attack that I could never have seen coming, because it was right off screen. It's so dumb. I literally can't even. Moving on. Here the spell cards are pretty much all attacks that she spends like 8 minutes charging, except for like one. It's the one where she does the slash of Nirvana, I think. But her last spell card though, that's when she spends 8 bazillion hours charging it. I'm surprised she even hit people with that one. Next up is Yuiko, which in this game is definitely not as cool as the last game. Yuiko is definitely the reason why I said bullets are OP in this game, because they just melt. Her last spell card, look at that. Absolutely insanity. Her actual first spell card that sucks is this one, where she shoots a cajillion unclearable bullets in the sky. The only way to reliably hit her here is to shoot bullets and then air dash or block the bullets are about to hit you. Other than that, it goes pretty easy. Onto the borderline. The end? Back at the shrine, we're met with Yukari, who puts up an incredibly difficult fight filled with bullcrap and hard to avoid attacks. Let's just start with the shits. Ron Yakumo. Yukari summons Ron, who does some dash attacks at you. However, Yukari will also be spamming this annoying ass attack where she hops up into her parasol and spews blue bullets everywhere, which really just clutters up the screen, and it's practically impossible to dodge Ron, reliably at least, and deal damage at the same time while all this is happening. Survive that, and you'll be rewarded with something worse. This bomb-ass attack, where Yukari summons tons of unblockable, pretty much ungrazable lasers which do massive damage. And their hitboxes are insanely large too. To actually dodge these, you'll have to make use of the super jump, which is a big jump. Press jump and the dash button at the same time, and bye-bye you go. It's really easy to get caught mid-attack by a laser you didn't see coming, because these lasers don't give that much time for you to get the hell out the way. Moving on, time for Yukari's last spell card. It's this unintelligible mess of... this. The other thing that really poses a threat in this card is the big aim bullets that come every once in a while. And Yukari blocking your every attack because she decides to not attack you with her own attacks whilst this spell card is active. Because yes, she can move independently, and one thing she really likes doing during this spell card is jumping to the opposite sides of the map and spamming block. It's especially annoying when you're trying to get to the other side of the map while the whole massive ring of bullets follows you at an incredibly snail's pace. Horrid. It just sucks to dodge. And then she's done. The game is not over. Yeah, I know. You thought this was over, son? This is also one of the reasons why I don't like this game. Stage 6 is not the end. Shit. We are not done yet. Best have one of those 3 lives remaining, because you only get 3 extra lives in this game, and you cannot get any more, regardless how well you do. Oh, and you only start with 2, so you can easily game over before stage 4. Yeah, and you can continue. Oh, bye-bye, good ending. You didn't properly beat the game, try again. Yeah, annoying. Anyway, the final fight. The actual final fight, stage 7. Against Suika. Who's a drunkard, lots of flash games that she's got. She's cool. Anyway, let's hit this like a lightning round, because I honestly don't care enough. First, she'll try to throw you like a rock while throwing rocks at you. Second, she tries to crush you from space. Damaging her here is kind of hard because her hitbox goes away pretty quick. Third, she chucks out a black hole that tries to suck you in. Just keep her in a corner and then she's done. Fifth, she blasts you with fire while you wail on her with range attacks because getting in close in this hard card is incredibly hard. Sixth, she decides to vape and become smoke, which may trick you into thinking that she's invulnerable and also high. She's actually attackable with ranged attacks. End of lightning round. Finally, the final spell card, Pandemonium. This spell card is the toughest in the game, as its bullet density is marginally larger than all the others in this game. Using physical attacks is basically impossible, so range is your only option. Even then, it's hard to hit Suika because of the sheer amount of shit being chucked at you. This card is actually incredibly cool, admittedly, because as you damage Suika, she removes one of your HUD elements, until there's nothing left. So you won't even know how much health you or Suika has, so it gets pretty hectic in the end. But in the end, you'll probably win, and the incident I wasn't really paying attention to is solved. The feasts are over, whatever the hell that was. I think Saki was trying to fix the Oni feasts or something. Yeah, it's cool. So let's wrap this crapper up. Okay, so I really didn't like this game, if that wasn't immediately apparent. But I do want to say, I know that I probably don't like this game as much because I'm not absolutely insane in it. I probably don't like it as much because I went for the shitty-ass story mode too, but even after my 1cc, I went and tried a couple versus CPU matches, and they still weren't very fun.
I don't like the movement. It's just not as fast as some of the other Touhou games I've played. The spell card system is just not fun to use. The special moves also, they don't... It seems like I'd accidentally use them instead of using them intentionally most of the time. It was just really difficult to use them with a controller, and honestly, yeah. And honestly, it all seemed pretty unrefined and hard to grasp, and since I was so used to some of the later fighting games, I tried using my skill with the faster gameplay there, and that just did not work. And so that led to my general distaste for this game. And the story mode here, I really just didn't enjoy, and I even tried it in some of the other fighting games, and it's pretty bad there too. So from here on, I won't be covering them. But the game's grand incident though, or its story, that is tied to the story mode and campaigns of the characters, I will not be skipping. Well, from this point onward, I won't be talking about any other characters' campaigns here, or stories, because I do not care enough about Touhou 7.5 to cover that. But I believe it's about time to head back to the main Touhou series, which is one of my favorite entries in the entire Touhou project.
Alright, here we go. This is gonna be like 3,000 words in one shot. Alright, here we go. Touhou Eiyashou, Imperishable Night, or Touhou 8 for short, is one of my favorite Touhou games in the entire series, and for good reason. It's got a gimmick that doesn't really mess with gameplay, but is also really good when you utilize it. Its character spread is also really great, with tons of bosses and characters from previous entries, and some of them getting their only appearance ever as a playable character in a mainline game. Touhou 8 also introduces some of the most iconic characters in the entire series. It also has a kick-ass soundtrack, which also kicks ass in MIDI form, which I've neglected to talk about for this entire time. And speaking about them, they're going to become practically irrelevant very soon, outside of a couple other occurrences. Anyway, the MIDIs are mini versions of the OST that was made as a little extra for all the Touhou games we discussed so far, and I believe they'll stay till Touhou 10. But they don't sound that great because they're being played incorrectly, blah blah, go find them on YouTube, proper versions. I like Irin's theme, because it makes me think about some Cave Story songs. They sound a bit similar. So this game's OST is actually really good. I'm going to gush about it now because it's good. The title screen sounds like nighttime and it fits this game's theme perfectly. Touhou 8, as the name implies, takes place during one single night, so having many songs sound like it is great. Stage 1's theme is also awesome. It's fast-paced and it sounds like the night, of course, and it's catchy and it sounds good. Same for the Stage 1 boss theme. It's night themed, whips out the Zimpet for a stage to show and means business, and has a subtle guitar in the back being all cool. It's very good. Stage 2's theme is fast and punchy. As it is very fast looking, it isn't all that long either. Oh, so that piano goes. Stage 3 is just way too calm for what's going on. It's just like, this is the screen and this is the music. It's like a complete 180. The song is also in line with the stage almost perfectly as the tone picks up and adds piano when the mid-boss appears. Great design. And this actually happens a lot in this game. But yeah, Stage 3 boss, everything's all tense and fast, and suddenly we interrupt Touhou 8 Imperishable Night to bring you Rush E! It just gets faster and more mesmerizing, man, it's crazy. And the backgrounds here, I've just got to comment on it. The color, the hazel gold color of the background is just beautiful. It's awesome to look at. I mean, I can't really look at it very much because of the absolute insanity of what's happening right there. Because like Stage 3 is pretty dense, a lot of dense patterns. It's kind of tough, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, Stage 4, the drums, whatever the hell that thing is, mixed with Rush E, and now the Zimpet? And the screen clears as the song. Oh. Stage 4 Boss 1 is just an old theme but remixed, and it's great. It was already good back on PC 98, not Windows. But man, did Zone do a good job with everything. One of the most popular things in this game, Stage 4 has the potential of fighting 2 bosses, and the second one, like the first, has her theme remixed from her theme back in 1998, and Zone hit the mark. This theme has been remixed to shit, and oh my... is it the most iconic theme in the entirety of this era of Touhou. Probably Touhou as a whole. But fast-paced, check. Electric guitar, check. Insanity's input, check. All the above, check. Stage 5. Kagome, Kagome. Sorry, I started doing that every time I see the song pop up because Kagome Kagome is part of the name and it sounds kind of fun. The cool thing about this theme is that it sort of feels like when in Super Mario World you're entering a castle and it's all slow, but like the second you enter things get all fast and stuff. Well, that's literally what this is. Tonal shift at the mid-boss here. Also, Stage 5 sounds a lot like how Stage 3 did in the OSD, a triumphant waltz near uncharted and dangerous territory. Good. It's good. Stage 5, it's chaotic, mysterious, and that electric guitar. Ding, 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 ding. That's amazing. Stage 6 is nice. Stage 6 one boss is so good. Stage 6 second boss is also great. The Sumpit, whatever that is just great. The whole thing's just ear candy. Epic. Honorable mention to the extra stage boss and extra stage themes. They're fantastic tracks. Of course, we're not going to really cover them very much because I also didn't beat these, but we will be covering at least one extra stage. I beat the Touhou 10 one. That's the one you saw at the beginning of the episode. Just, we'll get there. Alright. So now that I've finished gushing about the OST, let's discuss the most confusing parts about this game. The gameplay changes, and this game's gimmick. So as I've mentioned to this point, this game takes place during a single night, and the game ends when the clock hits 5 a.m. On stage 1, the clock starts at 11, and with every stage cleared, the clock progresses by 1 hour, of course. The cool thing about this game is that you have infinite continues, but there's a catch. Using a continue at any point will increase the clock by 30 minutes, so technically you have less overall continues than normal, or do you? You actually can get more continues, but it requires mastery of, or a firm grasp of the time point system, which is my name for it, because I never heard anyone else put up a name, so that's what I'm giving it. I know it sounds really, really dumb, but that's what we've got, so let's work with it. Will we? Right, so now we're at the point where I can talk about the new stuffs in the UI, because it probably looks a little bit cluttered to the normal person. Because they've seen multiple different gauges, multiple different things, and a bunch of crap at the end of the stage that they don't understand. So allow me to explain. So about everything new in the UI, of course, relates to the said time point system. So let's start with the big one, the time meter. It's the big thing right underneath the point gauge, which returns from last game. Remember, point gauge correlates to lives. Now, in this game, it is definitely a lot easier to get lives through those. Anyway, the time meter dictates whether you're eligible for bonuses at the end of the stage. More on those later. So as you do things, the number on the left will go up. If it's greater than or equal to the number on the right, then you're eligible to get the end of stage bonuses. So when you're eligible for the bonuses, you'll actually get the number on the left and right will become yellow, so it's easier to see, it's easier to tell if you got the bonuses. That's how you know. Now, on normal mode, getting the end of stage bonuses are actually going to be really tough to accomplish. However, understanding the other new UI elements may make things a little bit easier. So the yokai gauge is a little gauge in the bottom left that goes between a human and yokai side. These correlate to shooting and killing enemies whilst unfocused, as a human, or being focused, yokai. Also, if you're focused, then you can also get the yokai gauge toward the yokai side by grazing a lot. So it's probably immediately apparent, but when you focus, you swap to a different character, which is part of this game's team-up mechanic. When you start the game, you choose your characters instead of character. They all have different speeds, shot types, and perks to playing as them, and I'll talk about this later, but you get the gist. So basically, to recap, when you're unfocused, aka playing as the human in the team, you slide the yokai gauge to the human side as you shoot and kill enemies. Same goes for the yokai of the team / focused. You may be wondering, what's the whole point of the yokai gauge? I have multiple answers to this. 1. If the yokai gauge is at least 70% of the way up or more on one side, then you'll get these little purple things, which are the titular time points. Now, normally you'll get these by killing enemies, with any side of course, but getting these time points instantly, they actually are worth points. And that point will be completely yellow. It will be gold colored if you are eligible for the bonus. Getting time points add to the number on the left of the time meter, so they instantly correlate. They're part of the same thing. Now, getting these is also different. The main way of getting these are also different depending on which side of the gauge you are. If you fill the human side, then you'll gain time points by simply shooting enemies, without killing them, of course. Like, if you gun people down with Marissa, completely unfocused, you'll gain a bunch of time points by doing that. But if the gauge is on the yokai side, then you won't gain any time points for shooting enemies other than when you kill them, as that gives time points on default. Anyway, to gain time points on the yokai side, you have to graze bullets. Spell cards and stages that have lasers in them allow you to gain absurd amounts of time points from them. What's that? You went from having the yokai gauge at 100% on the human side, but after you cleared a spell card, it pulled a 180? Well, I can explain why that happened. In this clip, you swap to your yokai as you destroy a spell card. The time points actually speed up the rate in which the yokai bar goes, depending on which character you are. This also opens up new opportunities to strategize when you use these to quickly swap sides for a spell you knew that you could get good time point profit for. Oh, and you're probably waiting for the second answer to what this is all for. Well, crap, I've spent a really long time explaining these purple things. Now here's your answer. They're also used for scoring. How the scoring part works is simple. The number in the middle is your current max point card value, and it increases when you get time points at the max human or yokai side of the gauge. I think. Don't quote me on that. But it does also do one more thing. Doubling point card value. If you're at the max human or yokai side of the gauge and game point cards are the point of collection, they will be worth double. One more thing. With a gauge before I probably shut up about it, some enemies are going to have these little white bullet shooters, or spirits. If you kill the base enemy, the spirits will explode, clearing most bullets in the general vicinity and dealing pretty good damage to enemies around it. And it also turns everything to time points, I think. I don't know. I don't know if it always does that, but I think it does. So I bet everybody's itching to know just what we're even fighting for.
No, this isn't happening. There's no reason for me to go on. What am I fighting for?
Well, it's a number of things. First, if you're eligible for the bonuses, aka the numbers yellow, then when you clear whichever stage you're on, the timer only goes up by 30 minutes, which adds to one of my previous points about there being basically infinite amount of continues. If you're willing to work for them, of course. I would like to stop for a moment to appreciate how incredible this is for new players or people who just want an easier experience. It forces them to understand Touhou 8's mechanics to gain more continues, so they can beat the game and gain the skill to beat the game without them. This in stark contrast to the continue system before this, which kinda just gave players a get-out-of-jail-free card. I also believe Zun had intended players to use the time mechanics to specifically use continues on their first playthrough. So when you beat the game the first time, the game's going to tell you to beat the game without using continues, even if you didn't even touch level C and continue with a 10-inch stick. There's also another reason to be eligible for the end of stage bonuses: last spells. Last spells are a boss's final spell card, which may only be challenged if you have fulfilled the time thing. If your lives and bombs are nullity during all last spells, and if you die, you don't lose any lives, but the last spell ends instantly. After you take out a boss, they kind of just resurrect and do their last spell, which is very cool actually. And last spells will be skipped if you're playing on easy mode. Sorry Timmy, if you want to see these things get good. And that's kind of this whole game's motto, get good. Because really, that's the whole thing with the continue thing I was literally just talking about. The game wants you to learn how it's played by making you use a lot of continues early on. With your first attempts, get you initiated in the game. After you beat it the first time, you go through again, you beat the second stage, which is arguably, you beat the second stage 6, which is different from the first time you went through it, and you sort of get to gauge which one you want to do in later playthroughs, and you just get to get better at the game and eventually you'll complete it with no continues, and you get good that way. And you get to go for style points. You get to go for actual points. You get to play for score, play for fun, play for speed running, because you got good with the first couple attempts with continues. And not only that, in this game you are also allowed to start with a maximum of 7 lives if you've beaten the game multiple times, which just further encourages you to just get through the game with continues so you can make things easier later with its mechanics. It's a really interesting way of going about things, and I think it's a really, really good thing. And now it's time to cover the characters who are playable in this game, starting with our Aria of Forbidden Magic team, which consists of Alice and Marissa. Alice fires a high-power laser, which turns red when the yokai gauge is on the yokai side. She also moves generally slow, but which is also a really good balance with Marissa. She moves basically the fastest of everyone and fires a little spread shot with a few napalm bullets from last game. Well, technically last mainline game. These are very good at finishing stage enemies who have just a bit too much health. Marissa and Alice both have different bombs, just as both characters in all of the teams have in this game. Marissa's bomb is one of the best, as it's just Master Spark, high damage, long duration. Alice's bomb, however, isn't so good. It's probably one of the worst ones in the game. In fact, it could be the worst of all of them. Artful Sacrifice deals next to no damage and lasts for less than 3 seconds, and every time I used it, it was because of a misclick or accident, because Artful Sacrifice is an accident. So on to the next. Just kidding! I left something out in the changes to the gameplay. Death bombing. Why is this relevant? It's very simple. Death bombs got changed and allow for the use of much more powerful bombs. In this game, death bombs exist in multiple forms. There's the old 6-frame window, which uses a bomb like normal, but if you miss that, then you'll die, right? Wrong. The screen will flash red for a time that ranges from 1 to 3 whole seconds, actually. Pressing bomb button during this activates the character that isn't on screen to come on and use her own last spell. Yeah, you thought the enemies were the only ones screwed up with them things? To show you how devastating the last spells are, I'll use our current team in question to demonstrate. So I'm in focus mode at the moment with Alice, so she's the active character. I use a death bomb, which swapped to Marissa, and she fires the most OP bomb in the game. Magic Cannon, Final Spark. Undisputedly the best thing ever. Magic Cannon is just Master Spark, but beefed up. Same goes for Alice's last spell, which I feel feels even worse than actually using Artful Sacrifice. And that's because there's a catch to last spells. When you use one, it uses 2 bombs instead of only 1. So yes, if you make the mistake of activating the mistake of a bomb that is Artful Sacrifice, it feels extra bad when you use the last spell version. Oh man. It is possible to use a last spell when you only have 1 bomb left in stock. Forbidden Magic Team also has one more thing to talk about, their special perk. Their perk is this. They can use the point and collection line not at full power without focusing. It's also lower for them. It's typically lower for Marissa in most games that she's in, actually. So my previous statement might sound a bit weird to some. So let me explain that real quick. In this game, if you hit the point of collection line in focus, you can use it while not at full power. Marissa and Alice can use it without being in focus mode. At not full power, of course. Our next team is the Netherworld Dwellers, which consists of Youyoumu and Youyoumu, the double Ys. Now, the ones who thought something was off with this team are definitely on the right track, as Youyoumu, the quote-unquote human of the team, isn't fully human. She's half human, half phantom, so the yokai gauge is only 50% on the human side for this team. Youyoumu also has the highest damage potential out of the entire cast, without a couple, tweaks in the code. See, Youyoumu shoots a pretty good shot, which just goes forward, but she also has her little ghost/phantom side of her, which also shoots the same shot type, and aims depending on how Youyoumu moves. And if you aim it right at the same thing Youyoumu shoots at, the damage don't reach unfathomable levels. But you can't focus though, because focusing changes you to Youyoumu, who isn't as OP as Youyoumu. Youyoumu shoots a big spread shot which covers the entire screen and trivializes stage 3. Its damage isn't really great for boss encounters, but for killing stage enemies, it's great. Youmu's bomb is good. It's a sword slash that covers the entire screen and jetsuns her to the top of the screen, then straight back down. Her last spell is practically the same thing, but it deals a lot more damage and lasts for like half a second longer. Yukiko's normal bomb is, like Alice's, really bad. So Yukiko's bomb sends a few high-damaging butterfly bullets in a revolving Burkle that bills a few bings, maybe. If you're really lucky. It does pitiful damage to bosses, and it doesn't even last that long. The most it'll hit, if anything, is stuff that is off-screen and completely irrelevant. Quite possibly the most useless bomb ever. But you know what's not useless? Her last spell. Which does what her bomb does, but spawns like 80,000 circles of them, and they actually happen to shoot stuff. They typically hit things a lot more because it lasts a lot longer, and they're a little bit slower, kinda, I don't know. And they tend to stay on screen for more than 0.5 seconds. And they actually happens to melt through bosses in practically everything. It rivals Master Spark and even Magic Cannon, and might be even better on a burst damage basis. But anyway, as for the Netherworld Dweller perks, I've already mentioned the human side of the yokai gauge having a max 50%. But their other perk gives you a bomb after you beat a stage if you have less than 3 on you. Next is the Illusionary Barrier team, consisting of Youyoumu and Yukari. Youyoumu has a normal 3-way spread shot and some homing bullets for her shot type. Nothing special, but it gets the job done. Her bomb is good as it's her signature move, Fantasy Seal. Her last spell is practically Fantasy Seal, but it's got a lot more explosions, and it lasts forever. Yukari is packing some heat, however, as she got a bunch of high-damaging needle attacks at the ready. They also turn red when it's on 70% more of the yokai gauge, you know the gist. She is also accompanied by Ron Yakumo. Ron locks onto enemies and deals pretty mid damage to them, but it's consistent though. And once she locks on, she locks on. Until you stop shooting, she will never lock off of enemies. So it's pretty good in combination with Yukari's heat that she's packing. Yukari's bomb is alright. I think it was intended to be sort of kill 'em quick type thing, dealing tons of quick burst damage to enemies, but it only lasts a really pretty second. It's also very inconsistent, as sometimes I see it being nuclear level power, and other times it just falls flat in its face and does nothing. Just like that one time I tried to become Youyoumu and ended up impaling myself instead. Yukari's last spell is a bit better though, as it lasts a bit longer and deals a lot more damage. For perks, the Illusionary Barrier team has a smaller hitbox than the rest and can lead to some very interesting occurrences.
Miss!
Youyoumu is not harmed by touching the bullet shooters, aka spirits. Also, they are supposedly able to use a last spell by only having 1 bomb left. This is what I was talking about when I told you that the game literally tells you that you can't bomb. Well, you can't use a last spell if you only have 1 bomb left. Not only is Youyoumu naturally able to do it, same thing with Yukari, every character can do it. You just have to be good at the game. That's the thing. Last but not least is the visionary Scarlet Devil team, consisting of Sakuya and Remilia. Sakuya is... how do I put this? Bad. Like, really bad. Her shot type is basically Yukiko's shot, but it deals 1,000% less damage and has a worse spread. No good, I say. Also, one thing to note about it is that typically with most shot types that are on the human side, every bullet that they shoot turns into a time point, or at least most of them do, if, of course, yokai gauge is on their side. But with Sakuya's, only 1 stream of that spread shot bullet turns into a time point. So she gets generally less of them than every other human character in the game. So theoretically, she is the worst. And the damage. Let's talk the damage for 10 seconds, alright? Sakuya was paying to go through this game with. Her damage is absolutely pitiful, and I don't even understand why I continue to still go for the last spells. or even any of the end of stage bonuses, because it was so bad having to use that stupid ass shot type that she's got packing. It is bad. How much damage she does is horrible. It is worse than every other shot type in the entire game. Even Youyouko's shot type, despite it being super weak, and of course at the bottom of the screen, when you shotgun that actually becomes semi-powerful. With Sakuya, nothing. It becomes only slightly usable when you start shotgunning, and even then, it just doesn't deal damage at all. It is dog shit. Yeah, forgive the profanity usage, but like still, come on. It is bad. It is horrible. It is so bad. She's just bad. Bad. It is horrible. It's the worst shot type ever. Luckily in later games you're not going to run into shot types like this, but still, this is just bad. This is just completely unexcusable. Inexcusable, honestly. But anyway, her only redeeming factor though is that her bomb is Killing Doll from Touhou 7. And it looks way cooler, honestly. A lot more visual flair that was added to it. Unfortunately, though, it has a couple glaring issues. Considering that it's homing, it gets caught a lot on bullet shooters. One thing that I neglected to note in this entire thing so far was actually how the bullet shooters even work. Bullet shooters, as the name implies, shoot bullets, of course. But here's one thing about them. They are destructible by any of the humans in the game. Destroying them nets you a couple time points, but you can of course make them explode if you shoot their base enemy. Or base boss, because bosses also use these. Of course, as I mentioned before. But the one interesting thing about them is that the humans' bombs typically also destroy these. Like Marissa's Magic Cannon or Master Spark, for example. And Youmu's Sword Slashes also. They can also destroy them. Same thing with Sakuya's Killing Doll. But see, here, it is a major caveat, because instead of destroying them, it kind of just locks onto them, completely misses all of its targets, and most of the time doesn't even kill what it's trying to shoot at. And that's the bullet shooters. And typically, most of them get shredded by every single bomb in the game. Unfortunately, every yokai's bombs just don't even interact with them, just like the yokai. Yeah, Sakuya's interaction with this is really bad. It sort of just gets caught in the bullet shooters. And if they're not present, though, it shreds through bosses, really. And even the last spell version just rips through bosses. It is immaculate. It is a spectacle, honestly. It looks great. The name is Metal, though, and I just can't remember it for the life of me. I remember it being Metal, though. But, yeah. Anyway, to fully explain that, all the yokai can't actually damage or be hit by the bullet shooters. So if one, say, decides to run directly into you while you're focused, you won't die. But if you're any human but Reimu, because Reimu doesn't take damage from them, you'll probably die. Remilia is sort of gimmicky. As with her shot type, she spawns in little turrets that sort of linger around when you first swap to her. They fire little bullets of their own and provide the bulk of damage Remy does to enemies. Remy herself also fires a literal heat beam, which looks very cool, actually. I like Remy's shot type. It sort of allows you to kind of set up during like the stage, while also allowing you to deal with bosses, which is very unlike most of the other shot types, which excel at fending off against stage enemies. Cough, cough, Yiko. Also, it's one of my favorite gimmicky shot types of early Touhou. You don't see very many of these. Until you reach Touhou 10, there aren't very many shot types that sort of rely on a special feature that it has, or a gimmick, kinda. Like, there's gonna be a shot type later that's literally a flamethrower, but it has low range, so you have to compensate that with a different playstyle. That's typically what gimmicky shot types are. They force you to play with a different playstyle. or force you to use a special ability that that shot type has in tandem with your skill to make a really interesting. It basically forces you to play differently. And you're going to end up seeing a lot of these in later games. That's just, they typically happen after this era though. So, apart from that, Remy is actually a little bit faster than basically every other focus fire shot type in the game. The other ones are typically 1 to 2 star speed, but Remy is actually a little bit faster, so it is a good thing to know. Remy's bomb is actually not as good as I thought it was. It looks awesome though, and it sends tons of red things in a 4-way shot, and kind of triples her speed while it's active. It makes her go light speed, literally. It doesn't do that much damage, but it lasts for quite a couple seconds, so maybe it's kind of good. But the last spell version makes it do tons more damage and boosts its duration. And the Visionary Scarlet Double Team perk rises a Graze box, which makes getting Graze a lot easier. Also, if you die with at least one bomb in stock, an extra bomb will fall with your power cards. Also, all cards fall slower. A little bit. It's very minor. It's pretty difficult to notice. Anyway, that's all the characters and their perks. What's that? I forgot a very special quirk with Marissa and Alice. Oh, that's right! The first of the Marissa damage bugs. Oh, this is going to show up a couple extra times. Because Marissa over the years has a couple points where she's got a special quirk that either boosts her damage or basically makes her the most broken character in the entire game. Yeah. She becomes pretty overpowered. One of the reasons why she's one of my favorite characters. But besides that, the first Marissa damage bug is basically, if you're playing as Marissa and Alice, if you match focus while shooting, Alice is going to end up spawning 2 lasers briefly, which practically doubles your damage. And it may or may not deal more damage than Youyoumu with her ghost side in tow, but I don't really compare them, so I don't know. Also, if you perform the trick just right, you might actually still be on the human side, technically. The game sort of gets confused, and even though you're switching between focused and unfocused, it will still act like you are in unfocused mode. So, most of the time, you're able to shoot the bullet shooters while having double damage. So, you can just shred through some of them. And in a couple of Kaguya's spells, you can kind of just straight up disarm them. Like with the Fire Rat's blanket, or whatever it's called. I don't know. Like this one. It's one of my favorite strategies to pull off. If I'm not playing as Sakuya, what I'll typically do is just pull up to the left of the screen, shoot both of those bullet shooters, pull out to the right, shoot those ones, and then stand in the middle for a safe spot and I'll never be hit. It is just awesome. I'll have to do a little bit of quick dodging, though, most of the time, but it's really fun to do. And honestly, it's one of my favorite parts about this game. You can sort of just strategize whether it's possible to destroy all of the bullet shooters before you die. Is it the better option? Is it the worst option? You don't know. It's great. Anyway, there is also one more thing about the characters in this game that isn't really necessary to play, but it's very cool. If you beat the game with all 4 characters, beating with ending A and, of course, the normal ending and ending B, so basically beating the game with all 4 characters twice, then you unlock the ability to play as only 1 character instead of 2. So you can play as full power Youyoumu this way. So Youyoumu gets 50% on both sides when she's playing alone, and you can focus with Youyoumu. And the cool thing is, it completely stops her ghost side from moving. So you can just lock that thing into shooting forward, and you can just gain like triple damage and never have to worry about constantly resetting it when you move. And it just shreds through bosses, honestly. I don't understand why this isn't used in speedruns. I understand, because the Marissa Alice damage bug is probably better, and of course bombs, I don't know. But it's very cool. I like doing that. I liked doing that. It was good. I liked how there's unlockable content in this game. I mean, man, it was 2004. Having unlockable content like this that changes the way you play is very cool, honestly. Having a completely game-altering unlock. For 2004, dude. Did I mention this game was released in 2004? It's good. It's really, really good. And finally, we've made it out of the playable characters section. So now we can discuss the grand incident this time, which revolves around the moon, and takes place over a single night. As I've already mentioned, of course, so the moon has been replaced with a fake one. However, the team-ups figure this out, somehow, and set out during this night to stop the diabolical steam. So, let's cover all the happenings of the stages. Stage 1 is easy like always, and the boss is Wriggle Nightbug. Wriggle is very easy, but the boss part of her isn't even the good part. Her name is Wriggle! You want to know what bugs do? Bugs wriggle. Anyway, stage 2 is also very simple, and you get a bomb drop? On stage 2, from a regular enemy. Okay. That's interesting. Those typically come from min-bosses. That's odd. Anyway, the boss here is Mystia, who we'll be seeing later, actually. Anyway, her fight has a bit of a gimmick. As Mystia is a night sparrow, being a night sparrow, Mystia basically makes you night blind, which reduces your field of view. But luckily, though, most of her patterns are very slow, so she's easy, but having a gimmick makes things very cool. And her attacks are slow and dense, but they're made for you to pick through them like you're blind. Anyway, stage 3 is where things sort of start to heat up, because the stage itself is incredibly difficult compared to the other stage 3s of this era, as the bullet density is insane, and their speed is actually kind of fast. Homing shot or a widespread shot would work really well here. The boss, Kane, or Kane? 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 Kane threatens to wipe us from existence before I wipe her like I wipe bugs off my shoe after I crush them. In all seriousness, Kane is easy peasy for the most part. Her last spell card is definitely notable because I just can't stop dying. Them flippin' lasers just suck. They keep changing their pattern and I just can't. I can't with you. Stage 4 is really where things really pick up. Marissa calls Youyoumu a bitch. So does Alice. Unfortunately, they don't actually say this because this was a funny translation error. This isn't specific translations of the game where the fonts are a little bit different, and it's generally the translations are a lot more funny in this one. So this stage is interesting because the boss you fight depends on which team you're playing as. If you're playing as Marissa and Alice, you'll fight Youyoumu. If you're playing as Youyoumu and Yuyuko, you'll also fight Marissa. And if you're playing as Zakiyu and Remy, you'll fight Youyoumu. And of course, if you're playing as Youyoumu and Yukari, you'll fight Marissa. So I'm going to talk about both these fights because they are both pretty hard and have some notable spell cards. Starting with what I think is the easier of the two, Youyoumu. She leads with Duplex Barrier, which only looks scary, but it's easy if you look up and stay in focus mode. Move left and right, make sure you look at those streams of bullets that come out. That might be a hard mode exclusive, I'm not sure. Because I typically played most of these playthroughs in hard mode, because this game is actually really easy. Probably because I've played it a lot. One of my favorite games in the entire Touhou series, so I come back to revisit this one quite a bunch. Next is a non-spell that all speedrunners probably hate, because here Youyoumu spends a dense thing of bullets at you, which also constantly moving around aimlessly. The bad part is this: she likes to sometimes go halfway off screen, which makes her basically invulnerable for a short time. And then on top of that, she can also screen wrap. Add 1 to the enemy tax list. Next is oh? She's a runner. Catch that bit! Let's just catch her and finish this fight. Her first card upon returning is Evil Sealing Circle, and boy is this 1,000 times harder in hard mode. In hard mode, this thing is dense and fast. You need to make sure you don't die to the bullets coming right at you, while also making sure that you don't die to the entire ring of crap coming at you, but you can't be too fast because you'll run into this thing in the front, and you can't be too slow because the thing behind you will also kill you. So much fun! Next is the dual homing version of This Attack Sucks. Youyoumu sends whatever the hell this is right for your forehead. Just for good measure, it comes at you twice. Actually, thrice, if you're counting properly. First, it heads right at your forehead, and it practically stops right when you're at the bottom of the screen thinking that you're about to die. And then, it sends itself right at you again, and then it does it a second time if you're on hard mode. Making things even worse. You can't even. Anyway, to conclude, her last spell card is Fantasy Seal, Blink. And this card is just unfair. This is her last spell, by the way. Youyoumu flies across the screen at breakneck speeds, spawning homing bullets as she goes, which sort of lock you into Reimu's pseudo range of fire, because yes, Youyoumu can fly right into you and kill you. It's dumb. You can't even tell where she's going to come from. It might be the same every time, but honestly, I did not try this spell card multiple times in a row. Because why would I do that? It's the last spell. Come on. Now for the harder of these two. Marisa. Marisa's patterns are dense, especially her first one. So in this card, you got the scars coming from the top screen, but you also got a frickin' 3-way burst stars also coming from the top. Then you have the itty bitty stars coming from the left and right, which make things just super 46 chaotic. Also, can we take a peek at what the hell these frickin' non-spells are? Look, there's like a 1 pixel gap. Talk about hitbox moment MP4. Next is, So we want to talk about how unfair this card is? Loving Heart, Double Spark, is unfair. Because of that effing screen shake spelled EFFIN. The lasers aren't even the problem. I literally cannot see the stars she shoots because of the screen shake. Same thing goes for her last spell though. Like it is impossible to see what is going on. She starts firing the laser, the stars come out of absolutely nowhere, the laser is following you in the final spell card, and like the screen shake makes everything impossible to see, so I just end up literally headbutting a star and dying out of nowhere. On to Kagome. Well, I mean, stage 5. Touhou Inaba gives you a life here. And technically it's Tay, but it's spelled Touhou in this game. I don't know. It's just an interesting thing. I just call her Touhou because, I don't know, Tay seems kind of weird. As it's not spelled Tay in these games, for some reason. Anyway, in this stage, you're also rewarded with 2 more bombs, so yay. The boss here is Baspanui Racen, and her whole gimmick is that she likes to make bullets illusions. So basically, Infinite before Infinite was cool. Actually, this is Infinite like 30 whole years before Infinite was even a thing. Before Infinite and Sonic came out with this dumpster fire of a game, before they even thought about making that game, this existed. So yeah, Infinite before Infinite was cool. It's very cool. So basically, in her first spell card, Red Eye Hypnosis, she sends waves of real bullets, but when they get close, they go, whoa. During the whoa, all of her bullets lose her hitboxes, so you can kind of just run right through them. Be careful though, she reactivates her bullets pretty fast. So what I did here is just dish as much damage as I could in the middle for a second, then dip to the right, or left, and every time she puts things into whoa mode, I just slide to the middle and deal with pain as much as I can before she turns everything back. Also, 90% of her non-spells can be completely nullified if you shoot the bullet shooters. Like seriously, do that. Some of them can be very dense. Racen, like the other stage 5 bosses before her, is very fun, like the other ones were. With the whoa mode gimmick, it forces you to learn the spell cards and understand them, or you will die trying. The funny thing is, all the stage 5 bosses, apart from 7.5 because that game sucked ass, have a stage 5 boss with a stage 5 gimmick that makes things stage 5 fun. Did I just say that one too many times? I think I did. The cool thing about Racen is that she, for the most part, disallows the use of brute forcing through means other than bombing, and her spell cards sort of require you to know when she activates whoa mode, or at least expect it, so you can sort of gauge when to make moves. Anyway, let's hit up stage 6 and definitely finish this game the first time. So stage 6 is okay, that's fine. Eren, save me. Also, the worst spell card in the game, Earth in a Pot, is so incredibly useless that I can't describe my utter disdain toward this indescribably bad puzzling piece of pudding. Bro, this entire spell card can be cancelled like it's literally Twitter.com. Or X if you want to be the, actually it's called X.com, you absolute heathen. Don't even. Come on now. Eren is a pretty good boss, except for that. Anyway, Eren is very cool. She's got very cool patterns, and like her first spell card, you got them lasers which lock you in. Wait, hold on. Like her first spell card, you got them lasers which lock you in, and it forces you to micrododge in a very small area, and the bullets are also very slow, so it's a pretty fun one. Also, I like this one where she sends you around in a circle, but also sends bullets for you to dodge while micromanaging the lasers, and the bullets appear running you around. It's sort of tough, but it's kind of a fun one. There's also her last spell card, which is really pathetically easy if you just shoot the bullet shooters. For heaven's sake, I see so many people on YouTube, like I've seen so many playthroughs before, of people just holding X. They hold the focus button, and they just don't shoot any of the bullet shooters. Just shoot them! I swear down, just shoot those things. It makes this 10 times easier. It just makes things pathetically easy if you shoot them. And then again, they also only spawn bullets if one of them big bullets that Aaron shoots comes in contact with them. And then there's the epic finisher. In her last spell, Kaguya comes in to lend Aaron some last spell type support, and they unleash the ultimate timeout spell type beat. You need to survive like 90 something seconds to an onslaught of different attacks, which get really tough really fast. And then, after that, you have what? I didn't use any continuous. Oh, right. Continue mechanics, blah, blah, blah. Let's boot the game again. Getting to the end again makes you fight Kaguya instead of Eren, and a whole new boss theme plays too, as I previously mentioned. So in Kaguya's whole thing is based off of some folklore. In it, a princess named Kaguya sort of challenges many marriage suitors to 5 requests, and our Kaguya's attacks are all based off of those 5 requests, which I think is very cool, and it's something that's going to be definitely a recurring thing in this series, and I believe it's already happened at this point. I just neglected to completely mention it, because that's the only one I actually know, so don't expect me to mention very many of these, but just know that this is a thing. Also, I know like this rainbow attack. Yeah, it seems to be very random, and it feels like if RNG ticks the wrong clock, you're going to get conned by a stray bullet coming at you from the top of the screen when you're just trying to dodge the lasers, and I don't know. I don't like it. What I am a fan of, though, is the Fire Rat one. As I previously mentioned, it's cool. It's a cool one. You shoot the bullet shooters, it's fun. And then again, this is one of the things that I like about this game, because a lot of attacks use bullet shooters. You can sort of strategize whether it's better to shoot them or not, and then when you even shoot them, if you even want to shoot them at all. And anyway, Kaguya's final spell card is just way too long, and I just... So one problem that I have with this spell card is the fact that Kaguya doesn't even take damage for like 30 whole seconds, and to make matters worse, she's got a health bar that rivals the mass of the literal sun. When you beat that mess, Kaguya's got like 8 or so last spells, which are all very difficult, and upon filling 1, the clock increases by 30 minutes. If it hit 5, then you'll stop the incident, restore the moon, and get the good ending. But if there were any last spells left, you would have to play through the entire game again to challenge them again. Just like the games before this, I didn't beat the extra stage, and I sort of tried, but I couldn't really do it. I was so close, dude. I was like literally in the final freaking attack, and I just got conned at the end. It was so... And, that ends Touhou 8. I really loved this game. The time mechanics were satisfying to learn and use effectively. Playing as solo Youyoumu was just fun. The characters introduced are some of my personal favorite and the most iconic in this series. Cough Cough Racing was my favorite. This game wasn't that hard either, so it's very easy to come back to and chill if I wanted to. And now it's time to start up quite possibly one of the most interesting, most perplexing, confusing, but surprisingly fun games in the entire series, and it honestly deserves a lot more praise than it gets. Anyway, let's continue.
Touhou 9, Kaeidzuka, Phantasmagoria Flower View is a versus Danmaku shooter where two players send bullets, bosses, and insults at each other until one player wins. This is really an oversimplified view of it, but from the look on your face, it's telling me here that you understand absolutely nothing on the screen at the moment, so I'm gonna get right into it. Touhou 9 is interesting, as the game is a versus game, so there are two screens. Player 1's on the left, while player 2's on the right, or of course most CPUs are on the right as well. There's a clock at the top dictating how long a round has gone on for, and shooting is different in this game. Holding down shoot just charges your attack up, while mashing shoot shoots normally. And when I say it charges your attack up, I mean it charges the bar at the bottom. Shooting down enemies will raise the maximum charge of this bar. The bar is important, as it's the primary way you attack your opponent on the other side of the screen. Your character's special is done by charging the bar to the first threshold and releasing. It's also different for each character. Changing the bar to the second threshold and releasing unleashes a level 2 spell card, which clears bullets in a small area, gives you iframes, and uses your character's special attack. And of course sends an easy pattern of bullets to your opponent. Doing this also increases spell card power, as indicated by the number in the bottom left corner. It obviously increases the difficulty of spell cards you send over to your enemy by either making your bullets different, or making them faster, or just putting out more of them. Charging your bar to the third threshold uses you guessed it, a level 3 spell card, which is considerably stronger than a level 2. Unleashing one of these clears a pretty large area of bullets on your side, sends a tougher pattern to your enemy, and of course, activates your special move. It also increases spell card power. And if you charge your bar all the way to the max, you'll unleash a level 3 spell card, send a boss over to your enemy while clearing the screen entirely. Using one of these increases the boss level, which is universal and applies to both sides. That means if you send 8 bosses, and then your enemy sends a boss, it will be just as strong as the 8th boss you just sent. This isn't the only way of sending bosses, however, as you may also do it through the spell point gauge. This gauge on the top left tracks how many things you've shot or cleared in a row, and displays a bar detailing how long you have until your combo resets. This game is timing me. I hate being timed. If you get 100,000 points in the gauge, a boss will be sent to your enemy and the boss level will increase. Same thing happens if you get the gauge to 300,000, and if you get to 500,000, then you'll send a level 3 spell with a boss. Uber powerful stuff right there. Now to explain how to even effectively get this unfathomable amount of points in one combo. Shooting one of the fairies makes an explosion which deals damage to things in an area. This also kills other fairies in the same line or area. It also clears the white pellet bullets and turns them into points. There are these multicolored spirits that sometimes fly down, and shooting them, normally of course, awards some points, but allowing your character's scope, which slowly forms upon going in focus mode to hit them, it turns them on. Not sexually though. They have a lot less health and they actually make an explosion upon death. So bosses have health bars along with timers. When it hits zero, they completely disappear. But if their health reaches 0, they'll drop a special card after they leave. One of these gives 100,000 points, another maxes out your charge, and the last one sends a bunch of your character's specific EX attacks. An EX attack is an attack that your character sends over automatically every once in a while. Some are a lot more annoying than others. So now that you've gotten pretty far into a round, you're being barraged by bullets. A level 16 boss shows up, you have no time to charge, and you're out of options. Nay, says the bomb button. Pressing the bomb button unleashes your entire bar instantly. Charge time who? However, you won't be able to use your level 1 charge for a little while, as it completely removes the entirety of the charge meter. So you have literally 0 max charge. Yeah, this doesn't happen in any other circumstance, and this can be very bad for some characters, while inconsequential for others. Only use this if you have to. I personally would use it if this thing in the middle of the night if this thing pops up in my room in the middle of the night... Now that you've barely survived that last attack, you've only got your first bar, and a boss isn't coming your way. Some might throw in the towel, but there's still one thing you can do. Level 1 charges. Releasing a level 1 charge actually gives you a few iframes. So if you get lucky, you could survive. However, yeah, that's what I thought. You died. Yeah, it's pretty unlikely that it will actually save you, but it's good to know that it actually can, and it has saved me several times. It just doesn't happen all that often. You might think that this is pretty much everything, but in this Touhou game, you don't die in one hit. If you look closely, there's a health bar at the top of the screen. At the start of a match, getting hit only deals half a heart of damage, but as the match goes on, getting hit scales up. The max, I think, is 3 whole hearts, but I didn't pay enough attention to that, though. When you take damage, you also gain some max charge for your charge bar, which is cool. Another cool fact is this. Say, you take 3 hearts of damage while at 2. You won't actually die. You'll be left at half a heart. A sound will play, a bunch of things on screen will get cleared, and your max charge goes to full. So you could unleash level 4 charge if you wanted. And another thing, if you get to that half heart threshold, whilst charging the charge attack, it actually will not increase your maximum charge to full. It will just leave you at normal. So this can actually screw you over a lot. Just be sure to keep that in mind. So I spoke extensively about the OST last time, and I really don't want to do that again, as I'm not a music expert and I was already unqualified enough last time. So I'm not going to cover the tracks here, especially as, most tracks in this game are actually remixes of previous tracks. So, yeah, I'm not covering that this time. But the OST is very good. I do say that. Alright, picture this. It's 2005. Zone has no plans to make a Touhou game this year until he looks back on what he's made and realizes this. It's Touhou's 10th birthday. So he dropped his beer, ran straight to work on Touhou 9. True story. Zone actually calls himself a drunkard in some games credits, so yeah, definitely dropped his beer. So in this way, Zone decided to make Touhou 9 a fan service game, because 10th anniversary, which he believes is to pit players against each other so they can have a chance. So, of course, the characters have a chance to meet canonically. Kinda. And so tournaments can happen, and yeah, versus game. Touhou 9 is born. Because he wanted to add fan service, almost every character is from a previous entry in this series. All of them unique, having different shot types, EX attacks, speeds, scopes, bosses, charge attacks, charge speed, perks, and finally, story campaigns. We'll get to those later. As of now, it's time for the main event of this game, the 16 characters. Character 1 is Youyoumu. Youyoumu is rocking a straightforward shot type, and a level 1 charge sends 4 homing talisman forward. Then they home in on the nearest enemy, boss, or spirit. Her level 2 sends 2 rings of assorted bullets which stop, aim, and fire at their opponent. As levels go higher, more rings will spawn when this attack is sent. Level 3 is just about the same, but Youyoumu decided to play some war with her enemy. So the rings are all cards. Actually, they're talisman, but, war. Instead of ranging from pellets to rice, they're all, of course, talismans, or cards, if you want to be simple. Basic. This means you can't use spirit or enemy explosions to clear any bullets present, as pellets are the only bullets you may destroy with explosions. Level 4 sends a boss version of Youyoumu who uses Spirit Sign, Hakare, or Illusion. This attack is a boss Youyoumu sending a few rings of solitaire cards, then sometimes she uses her shotgun cards, which looks like a slow shotgun shot. Most bullets in it are pellets at low to mid boss levels, so it's very punishable. Of course, at low to mid boss levels, most of them are pellets, and they are subject to change at higher levels. Then Youyoumu sends out a weird ring of bullets ranging from pellets to, I think, rice bullets, but that only may be at maximum boss level, though. And take all footage shown with a grain of salt, as it doesn't actually reflect how our level 2 through 4 attacks behave. Of course, at all levels, it doesn't actually reflect it. I couldn't get good footage of them being used at every single level as well, so, when are you going to ever see a level 1 boss being used? Well, for longer than, half a second, because they get reflected pretty quick early game. And of course, this also goes for all characters as well, so it'd be wise to keep this in mind. Youyoumu isn't done yet, though, as she's got her EX attack. Her EX is basically yin-yang orbs that bounce off the walls of the screen and go in a sort of weird trajectory, but they are painfully slow and have horrible hitboxes, so they're actually really easy to dodge by themselves. Reimu's speed is just about the same as it was before, same for her focus mode speed. Her charge speed is medium. It isn't slow, but you can just mash out a bunch of charge attacks, and you can't just mash out a bunch of charge attacks insanely fast either. Her scope pulls up in the whip fast, and it covers a medium circle around Reimu, so it's pretty defensive. Adding to her defensive is her special ability, which gives her the contractually obligated small hitbox. Now for the tier list section. I decided to put Reimu in A tier because she's pretty solid. Reimu is defensive with a scope and small hitbox. Her charge is hyper fast, so it's a bit hard to make uber powerful attacks without hitting the 500,000 point margin. Or maybe strategically hitting a 100,000 point boss, mixed with a few lucky EXs and a few level 2s and 3s. It is totally possible, but you'll have to survive for a little while to get your levels up. Reimu also excels in defense from level 1. It allows her to mop up spirits, which are worth pretty good points, and activating them allows them to be used to clear the billions of pellets coming at you late game, especially with Reimu's scope covering at 360 around her. However, her level 1s don't do that much damage, and that brings me into Reimu's faults. First, Reimu struggles with killing Lily's white and black, who drop cards upon death. And her level 1 just ends up getting distracted by spirits, and they just end up tanking all the damage. And Reimu's charge speed also isn't even that fast to pump out them fast enough to cover that weakness. And as things get crazier and bosses get more health, just as their level increases, of course, Reimu can't just kill them to get a chance of getting that sweet G card, which allows her to actually send out them really difficult, tough attacks. But killing bosses in-game isn't required, as you end up reflecting them before you have a chance to kill them anyway, sometimes, as Reimu. A tier Reimu goes. Next is Marisa. Marisa's rocking a very fast speed on focus and a fast speed for focus. Her scope is a very slow expanding laser that goes to the top of the screen but isn't really that wide. Marisa's shot type is strong, and it's sort of like Reimu's. Marisa's level 1 though, that's the heat she packs, as 2 of them is just about enough to send low-level bosses and Lily White/Black 6 feet under. Her level 2 sends several rows of stars and pellets that move kinda slow. The amount of rows increases as the charge level increases. Her level 3 is just her level 2, but all the rows are stars and come from both sides, so that's a bit more potential than her level 2. Finally, her level 4 sends a boss version of Marisa who uses Magic Sign, Illusion Star. This attack sends a smorgasbord of stars, then a line of aim bullets, and a 360 circle of stars and pellets. Amount is based on level. Mixed with the level 3 spell, this could be devastating. Even more devastating is all that mixed with Marisa's EX attack, which is a bunch of lasers that warn of its existence, then fire. Usually there are a lot of these, so they can absolutely destroy you and limit your movement if you aren't careful. Marisa's charge speed is similar to Reimu's, but slightly slower. On the tier list side of the spectrum, Marisa was a bit of a hard one to place, as she excels in offense with her high damage and shot type, high damage level 1 charge, and really good level 2s and 3s. Not to mention the borderline broken EX attacks. Don't forget that boss either. But Marisa has basically no defensive attributes, as she is pretty fast when focused, and on top of that her scope is literally zero width, even if you have the chance to wait the 3 seconds that it takes for it to fully open. And because of this, it's hard to use spirits to defend against the major pellet spam in late game. Then again, you might never reach that late game, because Marisa's EX level 2s and 3s and bosses can shred at even lower levels. With Marisa, you'll need to play hyper-aggressive to achieve this coveted really fast match. Which helps is Marisa's damage, which could give really super-duper attack potential, as G cards in fact exist. Get one of these while at 4 max charge, and you just earned a few points of free damage. My final verdict for Marisa is the same as many others. Call it a consensus between many in the community. S tier. Next up is Sakuya. Sakuya's shot type is straightforward and doesn't do bad damage. Her scope isn't really great. It's a fan that spins relative to your movement, but it's kind of slow to fully open, and if you're really trying to pick through a bullet wall, you'll accidentally activate spirits that you wouldn't be able to kill, so they would end up exploding into 3 red ones.
Sakuya's level 1 is fine, but its damage leaves a slight bit to be desired. A slight bit. But it is in fact homing, and it's pretty fast. And it's also super spammable, so you can jam them out as fast as you can shoot them. Our level 2 stops time for roughly a second. That depends on your level, of course, and it puts a few pellets and knives in an arc around your enemy. And when time is back to normal, they go forward. Her level 3 stops time for a little longer than level 2 and spawns a bunch of knives that go in several directions when time is restored. When time is actually stopped during these, though, Sakuya can move, shoot, and charge more attacks. If your opponent isn't Sakuya, then they won't be able to move whilst time is stopped. That's right, Sakuya isn't affected at all by the time stop, so there's a bit of a caveat to the time stop. As the charge level increases, the knives spawning and overall speed increase, thus the time stop is also majorly affected. In Sakuya's level 4, of course, stands a blah blah blah, shoots a knife that spawns tons of bullets, which 99% gets instantly cleared, then spawns a few walls of knives. Sorted walls of knives. Her EX is really annoying, as it's a stream of knives that lock onto you and just straight up go there, limiting your movement. But Sakuya has the potential to be the most busted character in the entire game, and that may shock many of you who have seen other tier lists and opinions on Sakuya. But I believe Sakuya is better than others say. Sakuya is built to survive to and through endgame and thrive in it. Sakuya is built on defensive and pressuring tools. Her level 2s and 3s, when paired with mid-game to end-game bullet counts, can many times be fatal for your enemies, and even then it gives you survivability, as time gets stopped. Granted, during late game this is much worse than it is early game, but still, you can neglect charging up the charge level. You can neglect increasing the charge level for it though, so you could just very well wait till endgame to actually start popping them off. And it gives you extra survivability as well, because you can clear bullets by charging level 1 while time is stopped, and you can also shoot. And the strat removes some of the bad in Sakuya's scope as well, as it turns the unintentional activates into totally intentional ones. You can just charge up a shot, and you could literally charge up a level 1 while you're dodging stuff, so you can unleash it the second you're done dodging and kill all the spirits. So this allows you to have amazing defenses when set up correctly, and even just her EX bullets can be fatal to enemies, as it literally blocks their movement, can kill them outright, and adds random shit for them to worry about. Sakuya's boss maybe kinda does that, but it's bad. It's really bad. This is the thing I say keeps Sakuya out of A or even S tier, really. Its power doesn't really increase that much, and its bullets are slow. And their density isn't really the greatest either. And for all this I say, B tier. Her scope, while I did argue is better than it seems, is just outclassed by others and is sort of slow. And it also isn't as easy to use as some others, given how it controls. Her boss just plain sucks, and she's pretty tough to be offensive with in early stages of gameplay. She was so close to A tier. So close. Next up is Youyoumu. Her shot type is just like the others we've discussed so far, straightforward, good damage. Here's Youyouumu's kicker. Her level 1 attacks can destroy bullets, and also deals immensely high damage. But her charge is incredibly slow, so any of her charge attacks are incredibly difficult to pull off. So this makes Youyoumu an incredibly difficult character to play as, but she holds immense power behind the walls of this slow charge. Slow scope, and oh, the scope. Her scope is very slow, but once it's out there, it's out there. It's got large range, pretty good defensive potential. And I say potential, it's not guaranteed. Back to Youyouumu's charge attacks. Her level 2 sends a whole screen's worth of arrow bullets and an assortment of pellets. The amount of screen worth only increases, charge level increases. Level 3 is about the same, but more, and pellets are replaced with ritual knives? Then, the Holy Grail, Youyouumu's boss. This could quite possibly be one of the best bosses in the entire game. Check this out. So first time she loses with So yeah, if there's this and level 2 or 3 on screen at the same time, you're royally, and I mean royally, screwed. Unless you have a level 2 pre-charge to use a bomb, of course you're not screwed, but if you don't got that shit, you're done for. Then, Boss Youyoumu sends a wave of knives,
You don't even have to move to dodge, honestly, but could be major trouble if other things happen. Youyoumu's speed is fast. It's fine. Fast when unfocused, and when focused, medium speed. Finally, her EX attack is a void that can show up literally anywhere on the enemy's screen. And it can spawn on top of you. In some cases, killing you instantly. So I bet many of you won't be surprised by my verdict of S tier. Must I say more? Youyoumu is so OP in some ways. First, she's got a way to cheat her way out of most dire situations with her level 1, can spawn a boss with score, bomb, get the drop G, charge the boss, get a drop G, spawn in a boss with score, bomb, charge a level 2 or 3, and then your opponent's dead. No questions asked. Yeah, no, but Youyoumu may be OP, but to use her effectively, you've got to know when to start charging, when to cut bullets up, when to go for attacks, and know when to commit using your scope to defend. Remember, it's incredibly slow. Same with her charge speed. Very slow. So you kind of need to use skill to play as Youyoumu. Next up on our roster is Raisin has medium to slow speeds, and her shot type does nice damage. And her scope is really nice. It covers an eye area around you and is very fast. It also rotates based on how you move. That I don't particularly like as much, but I pardon that because of the fine enough area it covers to start. And it's basically instantly pulls up, so it's pretty easy to use. Her level 1 charge attack is where things get good, as it deals nuclear level damage. So it's basically a bullet that explodes when it hits an enemy or spirit. That explosion is the real damage trigger. You catch an enemy in that thing, and they're done. It destroys Li White, if you time things right. And it's almost twice the speed of Youyoumu. But you have to time it right. Use it at the wrong time, and it won't kill Lily at all. That explosion alone makes Raisin an defensive expert. Her level 2 is the horrid part of things, as it spawns a devastating amount of pellet bullets to boot, and they all spawn initially in one spot. So it's really easy for them to get sent right back at you. Well, level 2 spawns bullets and rice bullets in a circle, and they spin it into a pattern that covers the entire screen and gets much faster as it levels up. Her level 2 allows her to choose how fast she wants to fight to progress. Thought that was overpowered enough? Level 3 had something to say, bitch! Level 3 sends a few circles at this time, and there's no pellets, and it's faster. It gets higher bullet density and speed as levels charge up. Level 4 is good. Levels 4 is good. Raisin's boss sends several screenfuls of bullets, which can get pretty fast as time goes on. A slower screenful of bullets hit 3 of Raisin's EX attacks, which are basically her level 1 shots but aimed at your enemy. However, the explosion lasts not as long, and the bullet explodes when it's close to you. The cool thing about all this is that Raisin's charge speed is fast. Her charge attacks apart from her level 2 don't seem that special, but when you put them all together in specific ways and timings, you get something insane. The strat is this: send level 2, your enemy, none the wiser of your plans, gets all the bullets, pellet bullets with a spirit or enemy explosion. You reflect it all back, send a boss with all the score gained, send a level 2 or 3, whatever you can spam out as fast, and you can knock that fucker out. Double the effects of that when you remember that Raisin has the damage equivalent to the heat death of the fucking universe. You can mix that with a G card, or even an X card for that matter. I bet all of you expected this one. S tier. Raisin could be the best character when used right, but it's very easy to kill yourself with level 2 charges. Next. Really? I have to rank Cerno? Fine. F tier. Why? Here's why. Her boss sucks, her level 2 sucks, her level 3 sucks, her scope won't fast covers nothing and has no ways of covering better areas. And level 1, do I need to tell you how bad this is? I made a tier specifically for Cerno because she is that bad. So to explain level 2, which some noticed is similar to Raisin's, is bad because it freezes every single bullet on both screens. Yes, this would be absolutely insane if it was just for Cerno, but no, it occurs on both screens at once. Both of them. So it's completely useless. And there are so many pellet bullets, and that's fine, but that can and most likely will kill you upon use because her scope is bad, and if she doesn't have Raisin's level 1 to help reflect anything. She has nothing to offer as for stronger attacks, as if you send a Level 2 or 3, they freeze all bullets in one spot, and your opponent just charges level 2 or 3, and it all gets cleared. Cerno sucks. Next is Lyrica. Lyrica's rockin' with a dual-action shot type, firing up and down simultaneously. Her scope is slow and is a laser going up and down. And its hitbox is just bad. It lets me down constantly, but it's something you have to get used to in order to play Lyrica. Her speed is medium to slow, so she can actually dodge attacks easier. Her level 1 charge is a bit different, as it warps her backward shot to wherever she released it at the level the charge was released at. And it fires upward at a fast speed. This allows her to deal good damage, but not as good as racing her Youyoumu. Her level 2 covers the entire screen and fires in a wavy fashion, and we all know how bad it is to dodge bullets like that. But wait, it shows up relative to your position, so it's really predictable after a bit, so it's even worse. And the same goes for her level 3, which is just a double of her level 2. Both sides of the screen, no pellets, huge denial of space. Her bossy is powerful, as it uses a version of her level 2, used in tandem with a level 3, could very well be devastating. If used at the right time, in-game, cough, and in-game, cough, cough. I have reached my verdict. C tier. Lyrica can be absolutely devastating endgame with her level 3 and boss, but since her level 2 and 3 start at very similar positions, it's impossible to have a level 2 and 3 get to the bottom of the screen at the same time without popping bombs. And even then, it needs to be in the endgame, or else it will basically do nothing. Lyrica's attacks without any extra pellet bullets are super easy to dodge after a few rounds. They really need that in-game chaos to be fatal. But there's just one problem with all this. As Lyrica has absolutely no defensive capabilities at all. She's meant to use her speed to dodge everything and win, but it's pretty hard after a point. And actually, I'd say it's borderline impossible to dodge everything and win. After, of course, pellet bullets get spammed, and there's bullets everywhere, and it gets really, really difficult to dodge anything late game. You know what I'm saying? It's tough. Her charge speed is also medium, too, so it's kind of impossible to do things at some point. And so I say C tier. Next is Lyrica's sister, Merlin. And Merlin is bad. Really bad. D tier. Not even joking. Merlin has a mediocre shot type, a borderline useless scope, meh charge speed, and to top it off, an almost useless level 1 charge. Her level 2 and 3 are kinda cool as they sort of split the screen, but like Lyrica, they need to have good timing to be side by side, or usable in any way, shape, or form, or threatening at all. So, time to explain to the people who think Merlin is good why she's actually just horrid. First, her scope. Her scope, how do you use this thing without flying to the top of the screen and accidentally killing yourself? Her level 1 is fine when you accidentally hit some spirits and you need to quickly get rid of them, but otherwise you'll surely kill yourself trying to use it effectively otherwise. Levels 2 through 4 need to be used during endgame to be actually threatening. Like, even the slightest bit threatening. And playing as Merlin, you won't even get to that point anyway, because Merlin is almost incapable of utilizing spirits to clear pellets. Defense here is almost impossible. Say you're a Merlin fighting a Racing main. You're dead on the spot, because Racing reflects a whole bunch of bullets using your level 1 and 2 in tandem, and you have no way to reflect them back. Unless some enemies are in just the perfect position, Merlin won't be able to do it. And her, of course, to put another cherry on the top of the cake, Merlin's EX is awful. Literally, the bullets are so spread out that sometimes it looks like there's social distancing from the player, like they've got that one virus that helped cement the term social distancing in the first place. Her boss can be sort of threatening. Until you realize that many bullets of hers are just straight up pellets, so it's super punishable. And many of them are actually kind of aimed, so you can sort of just stream it. D tier. Next is the last of the Prism River sisters, Lunasa. Lunasa saw the piss poor performance done by her sisters and said no. She decided to make her shot type a sprite shot. It's a little too wide for my taste, but it does cover a large area. So that's a plus. Her scope is a mix of her sisters, as it's a big matematicas symbol. I can't speak Spanish, but the scope is too thin, it doesn't really complement her shot type, as the ones you catch to the side are sort of hard to hit with that spread shot. The scope is fast enough, and Lunasa charges even faster. She can rapidly use her level 1 charge attack.
Her level 1 almost doubles the amount of bullets in the spread shot, eviscerating your frame rate and all enemies on screen. Yes, you heard it here, folks. Lunasa sometimes can slow down and input lag your game. I only saw that once, but you know, it's kind of a funny thing to mention. Lunasa's level 2 sends a bunch of bullets up from the bottom, ranging the entire screen. It's only one line, but it can be devastating if there's two of them, and the gaps in between the bullets grow tighter as the charge level increases. Level 3 is the same, but there are no pellet bullets. So if the bullets are super tight, things get dicey for faster characters. Her boss is purely chaotic. She sends a few EXs, spews an assortment of pellets and rice, which are much faster if leveled up, and then she sends notes everywhere. Mix that all with the EX attacks, and you've got a recipe for fatalities. Finish her! Her EXs lock you into a corner, and actually just kill you if you're playing as a character with a slow charge up or have no charge. So, Lunasa's in B tier. She's a little lacking in defense, just her scope honestly kind of sucks, and her shot type doesn't really kill anything by itself. You need to be spamming level 1s in order to win. And you would think that shotgunning would fix things, but the shot type is slightly too wide to be able to shotgun from a distance. So you have to be basically in stabbing range to kill yourself. I mean, them. Yes, them. What? I don't mean you're gonna die before you deal immense damage to a single target through shotgunning with Lunasa. Her defense deficit is pretty much the only thing keeping her from A tier. Had that been better, and Lunasa would be insanely good. Next is Mistia, who, as you remember, I said we'd see her later, of course. Mistia is a fast little bugger, and her scope is just as fast. Her scope is a circle that opens instantly and is positioned slightly ahead of Mistia. This is a really good scope. It allows you to get spirits that are relevant and use many as possible for scoring your defense. I found Mistia's scope to be one of the best, and is controlled and fast. It works really well with Mistia's special, which is very convenient. It makes spirits want to fly right towards Mistia. That's it. This means that Mistia has better access to spirits, allowing her to reflect a lot more pellets and be overall more defensive. Her charge speed isn't that slow or that fast. It's more of a medium flavor. Her level 1's a spread shot of birds, which don't do that much damage, but it is a spread shot, so extra range. Her level 2 summons a bird who lays down tons of assorted bullets and other bullets in a tightly packed line. And then they split and go everywhere, but in neat, clean lines. Gracious. Level 3 makes 2 birds spawn lines instead of bullets. Spawn lines of bullets. Level 4 basically uses a ton of level 2s but aimed, and she also sends a few more bullets around. Her EX summons a bird in random location, who basically plans to level 3 but much smaller. I placed Mistia in A tier. Mistia is a character that's built to slowly whittle down her opponent and defend herself until her enemies all die. Better yet, she holds a power that Raysan has, a pacemaker. Mistia's level 2 is very easily reflectable. Over 40% of the bullets in her are pellets, and they all spawn in a neat, nice, easy to blow up line, near a very common enemy's spawn point. So Mistia can affect how slow or fast a fight goes, and might be able to utilize it for offense. Of course, late game, because late game you're not going to be really reflecting many of the bullets, now are you? Mistia is very defensive sided as well. Her scope and special allow her to utilize spirits to their full potential with defense. She may also use spirits for points and spawn bosses. She may also use spirits for points and spawn tons of bosses, and many times as she likes, which also may be able to slowly damage her enemies. A tier. Next is Touhou. Touhou has a normal shot type, but it's almost invisible for some reason. I guess it's fine, a little less distracting, but still. Touhou's charge speed is very fast. Her scope might be the worst in the game, though. It's a very slowly opening eye that favors left and right directions. It doesn't rotate like Raysan, and it barely extends in front of you. Bad. I guess her level 1 flamethrower sort of complements it, but it's still horrible to use. Same for the aforementioned level 1. You have to shotgun to make it useful, because it has no range. But shotgunning with it sucks, because it can't range very well. So killing distance, blah blah blah, we've done this discussion before. Level 2 is just 90% pellets, and they get cleared instantly by your opponent. So I guess you could say it's a pacemaker, but she doesn't have the offensive or defensive power to actually utilize this well. So that's pretty bad. Her level 3 is straight up useless, and it's almost the same as level 2, but less bullets, faster, and only with rice bullets. The last thing that Touhou has is the Holy Grail, the best passive ability in the game, apart from the one that sends me into an existential crisis when my inputs get dropped in the game faces slow down and almost dies. Touhou has death bombing. Death bombing isn't actually a thing in this game, but Touhou has a special ability that basically does this. When you're at one hit till death, basically half a heart, and you get hit while you still have enough meter for a bomb, you automatically use one, saving you from death. And you can do this infinitely, indefinitely, forever. And it would totally be broken if it were on Raisin or Reimu. My verdict is D tier. I bet you could guess the reasons. Next is Aya. Aya, everyone's favorite newspaper reporter, actually debuts in this game. Unfortunately, she is bad. Aya is incredibly fast. Faster than every character in the game, which makes micro-dodging a chore. Come to think of it, Aya would be very good at doing my chores. Her scope is a fan which unfolds very slowly, and has an okay range. Her charge speed is very fast, which allows her to spam her level 1 charge attacks. Her level 1s are basically an extension to her regular shot type, but it's incredibly weak. Her level 2 is an aimed string of bullets, half of them are pellets, literally just stream and you'll live. Same goes for her level 3, just butterflies and slightly faster. Do I need to mention that boss of hers? It's pathetic. The first attack has never hit anyone in the history of ever, so have the other ones. They're all aimed or practicing social distancing. They must really care about their health. Now that I think about it, why practice social distancing when you're outside? Finally, her special ability, which you've been seeing in use this entire time. Bullets are like 1% slower on Aya's screen. Yeah, super fast. This is barely noticeable, and I had to tell you first that you could lean forward in your chair, squint really hard, and exclaim, "I see it! The bullets really are slower!" At least that's something similar to what I had to do to notice it. I had to read the description. I had to look at the menu and read the description of her special ability to notice it in game. It's that bad. Anyway, Ayaya's EX attack might never actually hit you. Oh, but it'll hit the AIs just fine. Ayaya's EX's screws with the AIs. AI, I guess, and causes it to have severe brain damage and just not stream sometimes. When the EXs start their downward assault, the AI kind of just gets pwned. The AI should really get that checked out, actually. Yeah, just about everything that Aya has sucks. And the only thing she's really good at fighting against is bots. So D tier. Next is a returning face, back from the depths of PC98, Yuka. Yuka's packing some heat with a shotgun-like shot type. It's a 3-way spread shot, which is very tight. Her scope instantly opens up and is shaped like a flower. However, it's not that big. Speaking of speed, Yuka's the slowest character in the entire game, rocking a staggering half a star of speed. Focused and unfocused, it's slightly faster. Barely, though. The game actually lies to you. It's not half a star for both. I think it's like 1 star for unfocused and then half a star for focused. And that's actually not bad of a detriment, but I do think things could get dicier when you have to run to the middle of a match, or the middle of the map to snatch a card up. Her charge speed is fast, which makes her overpowered level 1s spammable. Her level 1 buffs the size and power of her shotgun, and adds more streams of bullets for roughly a second. And this can kill Lily white/black instantly. I'm not joking either. Lily dies almost immediately in this clip. Yuka's damage is truly unrivaled. Her level 2 is an explosion of rice bowls and pellets, and they can get really fast when leveled up. These are also pretty tightly packed, so it could be dangerous. Same goes for her level 3, which is just her level 2s, but with no bullets and with no pellets and more bullets. Finally, here's the true kicker, her boss. Yuka's boss sends bullets that cover the entire screen multiple times, with different patterns. One is really fast, another rotates in a weird fashion, but it also bounces off the walls, mixed with some of her EX attacks, and you're asking for trouble. Yuka's EX attack, on the other hand, is a very slow-moving big bullet from the previous game, but disguised as a flower. It does have that goofy hitbox skills still, so it's hard to read. However, her EX may also be smaller. When they're smaller, they move faster. And that's it. I place Yuka in A tier. Can you people believe that an actual doll came to life, is playable in this game? I can, and her name is Medicine Melancholy, Master of Poison. Love the name, by the way. Medicine moves fast to medium speed and charges at a medium speed. Her scope is a medium speed, but good range star, which slightly skews as you move. Medicine's level 1 sends a bunch of whatchamacallits in a similar fashion to paper flying in the wind, dealing pretty alright damage as they go. They go really well with Medicine's scope. Defensive ability, check. Her level 2 is a blast of rice and pellets. Not so threatening at low levels, but it gets really fast on the high ends. Same for the level 3s, which is basically the same, but more and no pellets. Her boss sends a screen full of big bullets and explodes more level 2s onto the screen. These might not seem so good until you consider the following. EX attack. Medicine's EX spawns a sizable amount of poison clouds, which cuts your movement speed. You're welcome, Maya. You are now deemed playable. But these poison clouds often get stacked atop each other, which do multiple things. 1. Usually it's impossible to see your character or any bullets within stacked poison clouds. 2. The slow stacks. This usually makes you pretty much unable to move, regardless of character. Yes, even you, Aya, you become nearly unplayable. Again. This poison, mixed with any mix of attacks, becomes literally undodgeable at a certain point. I would know, because the 9 unbeatable lunatic CPUs are in fact beatable with this poison. Why is this? Well, the poison can literally make undodgeable patterns. You struggle. You try to get out. You are stuck. You are dead. S tier. She can defend. Her scope isn't that bad. Her charge isn't bad. And the poison is borderline overpowered. Second to last now, Koumakyou's next. Koumakyou has a bit of a weird scope, as it ranges the entire screen, but disappears completely after a second. It seems like it's the best one in the game when you're left completely defenseless, unless you want to quickly reactivate focus mode late game, but that might screw you over though. Koumakyou's charge speed is nothing to write home about, but it isn't super slow either. Same goes for her movement speed, not super fast or slow. Koumakyou's EX is basically a circle of coins. That's it. Her level 1 is a bunch of homing coins that do fine enough damage, but this can go basically anywhere at the speed of light. This is exactly what I'm looking for at level 1 charges, a shot type that goes well with the scope, so it makes it easier to clear spirits. That's what we have here. The coins can go all the way across the screen, can kill multiple activated spirits at once, and does it fast. Amazing for gaining points or for defending. Her level 2 is, well, insane. So there's an explosion of coins and pellets. 70% of them are coins, and it can get really fast and really tough late game. Level 3 removes the coins as normal and spawns more rings of bullets. And they're a bit more spread out. Her boss sends a flurry of big rice bullets, which makes it really difficult for you to move around. Then she sends a whole ass laser beam of pellets, big rice, and coins. She also sends out a level 2 that has more pellets. So my verdict is S tier. Koumakyou has insane defense. Insane offense. Her level 2s and 3s are incredibly fast, hard to dodge, mixed with her EX attacks makes for devastating offense. She can also defend with a screen clear of a scope. I mean, it can kill you, but it helps more than it hurts, as Koumakyou's offensive capability is so high that fight last way shorter because of it. So Death Story enabling her scope can be minimalized. Next is the final character, Shikieki. Shikieki is broken. S+ tier. S tier. So, Eiki over here is packing a Rainbow Scope, but it opens instantly. Her level 1 is a short extension, and it's fine, nothing too much better than the others, but level 2 is insane. It spawns whatever the hell this is, and down on the bottom side of the screen, a pacemaker. And it can also function as a super powerful attack mixed with Eiki's EX. It just kills anything and everything. Her EX is a field similar to Medicine's. It doubles pretty much every bullet that passes through it, except for the judgment bullets, which are these weird yellow-orange red things, which all dupe bullets become. So every bullet getting duped in her level 2 kind of just kills everything, especially late game. Her level 3 is just a beeped up version of level 2 as it spawns more stuff, sends in some judgment bullets as well on the side, and her boss is a massive, major threat. She can laser you, spawn bullets ranging the entire screen, and just What even? Her speed isn't bad, she can dodge stuff, she can unleash spells sort of fast, not super slow, but not bad for a super offensive character. But who said she just offense? She's got Reimu's scope, and it's instant. Best defense you can get. Granted, her generally sort of higher speed makes it a bit harder to dodge stuff, but it's not like you can't get used to it. It's not IA levels of fast either. In my opinion, Shikieki is like that broken boss character in some fighting games. Oh wait, in almost every character's story mode, she is the final boss. S tier, undoubtedly. Speaking about the story mode, let's go over that. For every character that, of course, has one, because there are some that don't have a story at all. Like the other two Prison River sisters, other than Lyrica. They do something, of course. You'll see. Yeah, I actually took a moment to look at the lore on this entry because of the sheer amount of characters with the story mode. And it's actually really interesting, so I'm going to share it as we go through. And yeah, I played through the story mode to get footage for this game, so that's how I found out, by reading the endings, I was able to piece together a really cool story that I think it'd be nice to share that. So, here we go. So, spring has come again, Gensokyo, and everyone notices that the flowers and stuff has been amped up. Some go out to play on the flowers, but Reimu wants to not do anything until she realizes that somebody's going to bitch at her for not taking care of the incident. So she flies out to search for the perpetrator. Most stages' dialogue doesn't provide much flavor text or anything to add to the story, so I'll go over them without mentioning anything about lore. This goes for every character. So stages 1 through 5 have a few characters that you could go up against, so I'll use my 1cc as a reference. Stage 1 is against Mystia. Stage 1, of course, is easy like always, and the AI is really not serious. Stage 2 is against Lyrica, and it's basically identical. Stage 3 against Touhou is easy. Pretty much everything up to Stage 6 is easy. Stage 4 is Racing, Stage 5 is Youyoumu, and Stage 6 is Marissa. Stage 6 is where shit gets real, and you need to pay attention. So the AI is basically impossible to beat even on normal mode, and Zen thought about that. So we implemented a special feature, the time feature. This is a timer that is hidden from the player normally and can't be toggled on. It pretty much is the AI's "when can I die" timer. When the timer runs out, the AI will most likely start taking some hits. That timer gets really long, like a minute and a half long. Even then, the AI only might take one hit. It's not even guaranteed that they'll even die. Now, Stage 6 isn't likely to put up that much trouble when the timer runs out, but Stage 7 is where you most likely will die. Stage 7 for Reimu is Aya, and dying here is inevitable. The timer is incredibly long, and now you also have lives, so when you lose, you can retry the fight, but they are really hard to come by. You need to gain so many points to get them, but some might call you a point maxer, or whatever the hell that means. Listen, I don't know the things at Gen Alpha, so bear with me, no attention span people. Oh wait. We've been here for 47 minutes already. Oh, right. Points, lives, hard AIs. Stage 8 is against Koumakyou, who we'll cover the backstory of later. But know that she's important, especially for right now. So it turns out that Koumakyou knows everything about this whole event and is directly tied to her job as the tour guide of the dead souls down the Sanzu River. For a fee, of course. Reimu figures out that things could be Koumakyou's doing by pointing out all the different flowers that are blooming, despite being totally out of season. Koumakyou sort of brushes it off and says the whole "better get back to work" thing, and Reimu kicks her ass straight back to work. Koumakyou totally gives up, and Shikieki is revealed as Koumakyou's boss, leading us into Stage 9. Can you believe this? A Touhou game with 9 stages? Oh, wait a minute. That makes sense now. Not funny. Anyway, it's revealed that all the flowers are human spirits who haven't realized they've died yet. Holy crap, things took a dark turn. So as Shikieki explains, in short, there were so many spirits that they became the flowers. Reimu reveals her reason for being here, not looking like a slack-off, and elects that if she can defeat Shikieki, then the incident would be resolved, although it probably won't. Eiki retells the events of Reimu's journey here. You've exterminated many yokai for no good reason, and even some that even weren't yokai. And despite being a shrine maiden, you don't commune with your god. At times, you even oppose your god. That's right. Your karma runs a little too deep.
At this rate, if you die, you won't even be able to go to hell. Well, if I can't just go to hell, then I'll just go to the netherworld. Ayama's judgment isn't as lenient as that. It is impossible to overturn a decision. If I were in charge of judging you, you have sinned.
How rude. Exterminating yokai is my job, that's all.
Thieves, assassins, and soldiers would all say the same thing. Just because it's their job, won't pardon their sins. To cleanse your sins even a little, you must accomplish good deeds. Alright, I'll consider it after beating you and bringing the flowers back to normal. In the purple cherry blossoms resides humans neck deep in sin. Under these raining purple cherry blossoms, you shall cleanse your sins!
Reimu wins and nothing's returned to normal, so she heads back to the shrine. And Reimu's soul ending continues to actually influence endings in this game, so each character only has one. Iki shows up because the cherry blossoms were blooming and she wanted to take a break. And of course, that slacker Koumakyou decides to tag along. It's reaffirmed that all the souls and the flowers all don't even know they're dead yet, so they all showed up at once. Reimu thinks that a natural disaster or tragedy of some kind could have occurred in the outside world. So I'll skip to Iki's part in Marissa's story, because everything's basically the same.
Yes, you are a little too comfortable with lying.
That isn't true. I haven't told a single lie till I was born.
If you insist on this path at this rate, your tongue will be ripped out.
Huh? This is sort of junk that old people say.
You should take the time to re-examine your lifestyle. Were I in charge of judgment of your soul, you would be punished by the removal of your tongue.
That's so. Maybe I should practice bare tongue in case of my death then.
Your second tongue would also be ripped out. It'd probably be best to also fix that sassy mouth of yours.
Well, if that's the case, the only way to keep my tongue is to defeat you, isn't it?
Hell exists not to punish sinners, but to ensure that no one sins in the first place. I am here so that everyone realizes that. Even if I must hurt you a little, I must make you correct the error of your ways.
I think the interesting part here is how Iki actually wants to help more than hurt, and only acts in self-defense. So Marissa's ending basically consists of her trying not to lie, though her attempt is comedic, at best. And it shows that she actually is kind of trying, at least a little bit. So, in Marissa's attempt to not lie, she breaks into the Scarlet level mansion directly through the front door and flat out just straight up tells Sakia that she's here to rob them. But she ends up having some violet cherry leaf mochi instead. And in the end, Marissa stops trying to resolve the incident, and instead decides to enjoy it. Then these lines appear, and they're kind of interesting and sort of reveal Marissa's two intentions for trying to stop the incident. Or lack thereof, of course.
It wasn't dangerous, and she felt that it would spoil things if she didn't enjoy such a beautiful incident. Or rather, she felt no need to lie to herself.
So this makes me think that Marissa just went to solve this incident because she tries to solve incidents every time they pull up. So I guess she really is trying to not lie to herself anymore. So for Sakuya, it's revealed when fighting Youyoumu that flowers don't bloom in the netherworld. That the flower event doesn't bloom in the netherworld. So I won't spoil the stuff about medicine, but I will say it's implied that Sakuya gets poisoned and dies to poison if she loses. So that's nice, but obviously not canon. So here's Iki.
Yes, you're too cold to other humans. The cold steel of a knife holds no warmth after all. If you die as you are, it'd require quite some time for you to cross the river. Whatever do you mean? If you behave badly, you might not be able to cross the river of the dead. The river's width is the same as the breadth of the soul's baggage. How you live determines the width of the river. This is not fully clear to me, but I suppose that the longer it takes for me to cross the Sanzu River, the more trouble there is. Souls will wear themselves out before they can reach the end. On top of that, the boat isn't a comfortable one. I understand. Souls can become fatigued as well. However, isn't this in regards to a time after my death? Why tire myself with worry now, if I do not treasure my present? For now, there was work for me regarding this flower epidemic. If you don't make amends now, once you die, it'll be too late for regrets. People who think that treasuring the present is a virtue are increasing, and it's terrible. Know well that the only way one can live a good afterlife is to do good deeds during one's life. So here it seems, according to Iki, first you need to learn to fear your judgment. Then you'll likely take the right path. It appears that Saki is too cold to others and doesn't fear judgment, at least a little bit. It's also revealed that the Sanzu River could be so long that the soul going down it could get fatigued. It's not said what happens to the tired souls, but I presume it isn't good. So in Sakia's ending, she pretty much shows concern for pretty much everyone around when Pachi whips out the poisonous flowers that she picked up. She actually attempts to become kinder, and Remy and Pachi actually make some pretty cool comments about that. Kinda cool. And so Sakia gave up on solving the incident out of her kindness. The kindness of dumping all the responsibility onto Reimu. So Youyoumu doesn't immediately accuse Koumakyou of knowing something or chewing her out for not doing her job, or nothing. Youyoumu actually thanks her for doing the job, completely oblivious to her lack of doing that job. Youyoumu does get informed, though, of the influx of spirits that are probably about to get sent to the netherworld. So now for Eiki. That's right. You come into this world a little too much. You are a half-ghost. If you continue entering this world like this, I must also eventually judge you. If I was in charge of judging you, you would fall to hell as a human. Hell? Wait, what? I'm a being of the netherworld. Why must I be judged? Then are you acting how a being of the netherworld should act? Do not come around to this world without thinking and fool around. That is not acceptable. You are neither a living being nor a dead one. Since you are in an unstable position, you can live in the netherworld and slice phantoms. I'm still living in the netherworld, and I can still slice phantoms. You have become too acquainted with this world. If you raise a wild wolf, it'll become a pet. If phantoms live in this world, they'll become a living being. You need to be judged here a little. Look back on your sins below these violet cherry blossoms. So Youyoumu's believing in another world. So Youyoumu's been believing in the netherworld a bit too much, and supposedly chopping up phantoms is bad because that could allow those with high amounts of sins to enter heaven without being judged by Shikieki. That actually just summarizes her ending as well. So next up is Raisin. And to sum it all up, Raisin is selfish because her whole backstory happened. Her backstory is pretty much this. Raisin was a moon rabbit in service of the Lunarians, as the pet of the sisters Toyohime and Yorihime, and being enlisted in the Lunar Defense Corps. Moon rabbits are used for a large variety of menial labor, including farming, pounding medicine, cleaning, and as soldiers in the lunar capital's war effort. However, sometime during the Lunar War, Raisin deserted the lunar capital and fled to Earth as a refugee from the Lunar War between the two worlds that began in 1969 AD, after the Apollo 11 invasion. Yeah, tough stuff. So Raisin's ending is all about medicine, so I'll leave it at that until we get to medicine. Next is Lyrica, and she doesn't ever fight Koumakyou. In fact, it's just Yuka, who reveals that at least sunflowers get possessed every 60 years. And that's all she gives us. Very vague. Oh yeah, I haven't heard of the sound of cherry blossoms yet. I was too focused on the strangeness of the flowers that I completely forgot about the spring flowers. Yon cherries and the red spider lilies with this eternal quiet. Muin to Nozuka. Flowers that never bloom simultaneously bloom. The red spider lily appeal to lament. Higan cherries play the melody of conviction. It's almost rare that the poltergeists appear here. Plural again. Get it though, I'm alone today. Oh, then what are the two behind you? Ah, you're not supposed to say that. After managing to hide this much too. Huh? When did you two end up behind me? We were watching you from the beginning. You look like you were doing something interesting, so we did it in secret. There are 3 noisy spirits. You're going to perform live in the cemetery, aren't you? What the heck? If you're gonna follow me, then tell me from the beginning. We were gonna come out if it got dangerous. Yes, like right now. Right now? The souls here are human souls from the outside world. They're using the flowers as their foundation right now. You 3 were born as spirits. What was once your foundation doesn't exist anymore. That's right. You 3 are a little too unclear toward yourself. At this rate, you 3 will either break down into chaos or simply disappear altogether. I may not be able to judge you all, however. To abandon you is a little cruel. Who exactly are you? I'm the one who judges the sins of those who have died. Yes, the judge of hell. If you 3 wish to continue performing from here on, you have no choice but to listen to my advice. What are you talking about? Sis, you don't need to listen to what she's saying. Yes, yes, she says advice, but it sounds like some sort of fraud of religion. Exactly. Spirits without a foundation are extremely unstable. It appears that your musical instruments are your foundation, but in that reality is false. Your foundation was the human that created you, and that human is no longer here. If you don't wish to disappear, the first thing you must do is realize your reason for existence. Lol. Lyrica's sisters were following the whole time. I think it would have been cooler if the other two actually joined Lyrica and put all their shot types and attacks together in the end. I mean, that would be totally broken, but remember, they're going up against the most broken character in the game. And I don't think I have to explain this whole scene, as it's pretty cut and dry. Now for Lyrica's ending. The Prison River sisters returned to the Sunflower Field where Lyrica fought Yuka, and they put on a concert for all the souls inside the flowers. Next is Mystia. She just wants to sing, almost dies to medicine. Yuka tells her to have a nice day, and Shikieki tells her, in short, to shut the fuck up. Her ending is literally the story on how Mystia literally almost forgot everything Nikki told her. Next is Touhou. Touhou sneaks out to go play in the flowers or some shit. Touhou gets poisoned in Medicine's poisonous flower field, and it persists actually through the next levels, and even Koumakyou notices it. Eiki says that Touhou is too deceitful. And then, when Touhou gets home in her ending and is super sick, so Irin decides to, not making this up, but placebo affect some wheat flour into curing Touhou. I'm not even joking. Irin actually says, yes, the wheat flour isn't going to do anything, but, placebo effect. And so Aya makes her first appearance in this game, as I've said before, and we'll be seeing her many times later in her own games. So I'm introducing her right now. Aya is a Tengu who runs the newspaper Bunbamaru. She's incredibly fast because she's a Tengu and has the special power of manipulating the wind. For some reason, she doesn't actually use this power that much in combat. If she even actually fights at all, she pretty much just goes around getting scoops, pictures, and interviews for all of her newspapers. In this game, that's kind of it. She goes around trying to get info on the flower building event. Eiki now says to Aya, I've gathered a lot of information. It feels that I can make an article with this. It's not my job to solve this, so I'll head back to work now. But, why am I heading towards these cherry blossoms? The violet cherry gathers sins and makes flowers bloom. Sins that cannot be spoken of, or even sins that the person themselves are not conscious of, have no meaning in front of the cherry blossoms. The violet cherry blossoms have come and witnessed all sins. Excuse me? But who might you be? Is something the matter? These cherry blossoms seems like something you're inclined to. Treasures of the past. Murderers, assassins, serial murderers, manslaughter. There are many incidents sleeping here. Do the incidents only consist of murders? I don't really want to write about murderers, though. I am the one who measures the weight of sins. Yes, the Yama. Eh? You're the Yama? Why have you come to such a remote place? The number of deceased from the outside world occasionally drastically increases. They generally increase by a cycle of every 60 years. So it turns out that now is that time. So that's how it is. Speaking of which, I think I recall flowers blooming out of a season in the past as well. But a cycle of 60 years is too long ago. It can't be helped if I forgot it. You are drawn to the violet cherry blossoms that bloom sins. Tengu are naturally curious, so they're sensitive to new occurrences. But sometimes, curiosity can cause incidents. That's right, you're a little too inquisitive. To relay events through a newspaper is to create a new event. You may be intending to investigate an incident, but you yourself is causing one. And the sins of events you've caused are included with your own sins. You will most likely fall to hell. Eh? I write articles with no bias or fabrications at all. It's impossible to truly record the truth. That is because you cannot bear on the fact that there are others who read the article. If you write an article, the truth will change. If you watch the truth change and rewrite the article, the truth will change yet again. When writing an article, you must be prepared to cause an event. So this has major additions to our story here. First, Aya looks way too much for things to put in the news. Personally, I agree. Many of her lines are about the newspaper, and they're kinda, I don't know. Second, it's confirmed that the Flower Fiesta isn't an original event. This has happened before. According to the scene, a flower event like this typically happens every 60 years due to an influx of people on the outside world dying.
So this would mean that due to the influx, Koumakyou can't slack up at all, which means she gets behind, which makes the flower event happen. So in Aya's ending, she decides not to write an article on the flower incident, and therefore not cause any trouble. Heeding Ikki's words, she did say that sometimes Aya's articles cause problems. Medicine Melancholy is a doll. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. Yeah, just kidding, lol. Medicine is a doll who was neglected and left in the Lily of the Valley field. She has the power of poison manipulation, and apparently even touching her would give some inflammation. Some powerful stuff. Since she's a doll, she's actually immune to the poison she uses to kill her enemies. She hardly ever leaves the Lily of the Valley field, but she does go out in this game and of course makes her way to Shikieki.
Alright then, I've enjoyed Higanbana to my heart's content. I guess I should head back now. Is what I'm supposed to be thinking. What is this? It's not poison, but I'm being drawn in by these violet cherry blossoms. It's dangerous. If you're not careful, those cherry blossoms will... An endless number of hands will stretch and beckon for you. They're holding on to you. That's disgusting. There's no helping it. You're a type of tool, a doll. No matter how you think, the ones using you will selfishly put their love or hate into you. At times they will give a name. At times they will change your appearance. But at every user's will, tools are used. Yes, tools are something that humans selfishly put their feelings onto. That's right. That's right. You understand well. There are many souls here at Muenzuka that have not realized they have died. That's why it's not safe for a tool such as yourself to come here. You'll be taken in by their unstable minds. No, I'll fight until the status of dolls rise. I'll fight humans. Has your head been infected by the poison as well? Suzuran is the poison of the heart. Ianbana and Suzuran poison are different. They're different bodies. If you bask in both poisons, it wouldn't be wrong to call you a dump of poison. You know, I've been thinking for a while. It's about time for me to take a stand to achieve the liberation of dolls. You have not realized the effect of poison. You need to cool off a little. If dolls are liberated, who will create dolls? Do you believe that the dolls other than yourself will follow your small heart? That's right. Your outlook is a little too narrow. How many times have you left your small Suzuran field? Humans are the same. If they shut themselves in a small place too long, they won't be able to see others. Only your heart alone will become aggressive. You are the same as other typical humans. One who holds a small heart. That isn't true. It's true that I haven't left the Suzuran field until today. How did you know that I'm living in the Suzuran field? If you don't receive support from others, you won't be able to cross the Sansu no Kanawa, and you'll be dropped into the river partway. A soul that does not understand the pain of others will never receive their support. Even if you wish for the liberation of dolls, you will embrace despair at the fact that no one will aid you. As a doll that will not come to me after death, I shall judge you here and now. I forgot to mention it, but Medicine hates humans, and she longs for the liberation of all dolls. She doesn't really have much support from other dolls. Maybe it's because she's the only doll that can actually move. In Medicine's ending, she takes what Inky says to heart? Oh, wait. She doesn't have one. Anyway, she tries to not try and kill everyone she sees, especially when Raisin and Irin show up to do that stuff from Raisin's ending. Which is taking some of that sweet poison for some new medicines. Medicine is kind towards them, and Raisin thinks she's out to something fishy. But all Medicine is doing is attempting to make friends. Medicine very recently was animated through poison, so she isn't that knowledgeable. One of the reasons she's trying to make friends is to get supporters for doll liberation. According to what I've read in this ending, Medicine is totally won Irin over. The funny thing about Medicine and her whole place in this game is that she doesn't actually care about the flower incident. In fact, I doubt she even knows anything is off about the flowers. And she's totally my favorite out of the new faces here. It's unfortunate that we won't really be seeing her much after this point. So, Yuka here is out for blood. First she kicks the crap out of Cerno, then disses Mistia. When I say it was honestly, it was moved. Hey, don't mix up the lyrics. It's not moved. It's disowned. Then every main character from Elise Touhou pulls up in the whip and assumes Yuka is the culprit because of her flower power. Not you! Then Yuka calls Koumakyou a bottleneck. Then Eiki puts Yuka right in her place. Although it's perfectly natural, even when early cherry blossoms are in full bloom, I'm here anyway, so I might as well enjoy the flowers before heading back. Purple cherry blossoms bloom flowers of melancholy, and scatter the petals of memory. Fallen flowers, after a long time, return to the earth, and once again bloom flowers. This is the endless cycle of sins. Yes, the fate that occurs once every 60 years. But it's been in bloom for a while, the early cherry blossoms. It shows just how many sinners have died. It makes you wonder what's happening outside. It doesn't matter. I just want to rest under these cherry trees and reminisce about the past. If you rest here, you'll become insane. No, you might already be a little strange. Whether it be humans or yokai, or ghosts or fairies, you've attacked them. Without much reason as well. Tai was just teasing them. It's a daily thing. Living is that much of a sin. That's right. You've lived a little too long. If you continue living on like this, nothing good will come of it. If you were quiet and listened for a while, you'd only know I was only fooling around. Do you think when you're not cheesed, you're above everyone else? Let's make it as clear as black and white who of us is the strongest in Gensokyo. It's my job to discern black and white. However, I am not of Gensokyo, nor am I of this world. Judgment is done from top to bottom, from left to right, and must always be completely one-sided. No matter how you fall, the one who shall be judged to be black or white is you. So in the ending, not much happens. I'm not sure if Yuka even listened to Eiki at all. What I do know is Yuka's dialogue is the funniest of them all. Now for the afterword. The incident isn't over yet at this point, but of course, Eiki and Koumakyou haven't had their chance in the spotlight yet. So these final story campaigns occur after all the others. Koumakyou is the fairy woman of the Sun's River, and kinda is like the Grim Reaper of sort. She takes a soul and has a chat with him as they drift across the river. Funny thing is, it can be as long as Koumakyou wants because of her lazy ability to manipulate distance. She is very talkative and lazy, so she most likely tries to make rides as long as possible. So in her story mode, she leaves to go do whatever. Pretty much anybody calls her out for slacking off, and of course I just couldn't go without mentioning Master of Slacking. Best name ever. Good job, Marissa. I don't think I need to cover what Eiki says, but as she pretty much just elaborates on the importance of ferrying the souls and how she and Koumakyou are to be impartial or something. I wasn't really paying that much attention, but Koumakyou does get scolded for being lazy and making too many excuses. In Koumachi's ending, it's explained how exactly Eiki judges people, and how she tends to give them really long tongue lashings on how they could be better. Now for the big boss herself, Shikieki. Shikieki is a Yama. She is a judge of the dead. She is clearly relentless, but sort of patient. Medicine's combo with Eiki supports that a little. So Eiki goes around Gensokyo, checking in on those who she's lectured, to see if they've listened. Most haven't, but some have. Most of those who aren't shown. Most of those who have aren't actually shown. Medicine is a prime example. Aya almost got it, and I'd like to highlight what Eiki says to Aya, as it's actually relevant to us right now, and many others who are doing things similar to me. Writing a script is similar to writing a newspaper. No, there are comments, some good, some bad. Some will debate in the comments. Eiki says that the writer may cause issues, conflicts, incidents, something. This could be good or bad, but a writer has influence, and that's what applies. The words I put in my script, in my video, can change the truth for some, and others may notice a flaw or discrepancy in my words, which may or may not be right 100% of the time, and may cause a reaction. Thus the problems, and the debates, and the comments. So I'd say to all who write, do what Eiki says, and prepare for issues. Assume you were wrong at some point, and atone for discrepancy. And so I say, I am deeply sorry for those who have been confused, or have been noticed to be saying something that isn't totally true, or has no truth to back it in the first place. Write something in the comments if I hadn't remedied it already. In post, of course. When all is about to end, Reimu meets Eiki, asking for a time estimate of how much longer the flower incident has. Here's what the lore behind all this. Here's when the lore behind everything becomes clear. Let the conversation explain it all. It's really simple. It looks like more time is required for the cherry blossoms to scatter. Even with everything I've said, when comparing the people of Gensokyo to the people of the outside world, the bad ones of Gensokyo are still Fleor. The sins of the ones residing in these cherry blossoms have no relevance to the crimes of the outside world. The law is decided by humans. Sins that cannot be judged by laws are judged by me. Oh. It's still the same as ever. Always with the, it'll be soon, it'll be soon. When exactly will the cherry blossoms return to normal? You came at the perfect time. How is it? Have you understood my teachings, and are you keeping to them? Like I said, I baked and made things edible. Various things. There are many sinful souls under the violet cherry blossoms. Souls of virtue are ferried in order to be gone. The cherry blossoms here will be the very last. No, not just here, but the very last will be cherry blossoms in general. 'Tis that so? And cleaning up cherry blossoms is the most annoying task. When all that's left are the cherry blossoms, Gensokyo will begin reading a new calendar. This year is the year of rebirth, which comes upon us every 60 years. If one were to say it all, it's Gensokyo's once every 60 years anniversary, and the cherry blossoms represent death and resurrection. Why does this kind of year come once every 60 years? It's often said that it's of the zodiac, but that's just what humans conjectured afterwards. 60 years is really just a number form of all nature expressed. Sun, moon, and stars comprise the three lights. Spring, summer, fall, and winter comprise the 4 seasons. Wood, water, fire, and earth and metal comprise the 5 phases. Combine the 3 lights, 4 seasons, 5 phases, 3 times 4 times 5, and we get 60 years. 60 years is a combined number of complete nature revealed. In other words, nature is reborn once every 60 years. Gensokyo will resurrect this year. So that's how it is. I wasn't born 60 years ago, so I can't confirm anything. She's like 20, I think. If you have insight, you should understand right away. The ones who have seen this outbreak 60 years ago weren't too clamorous, were they? There were some that were a bit too clamorous. Memories of the past 60 years revolve. Also, it wasn't a particularly unique incident, so it's easily forgettable. That's how it is. No wonder I didn't feel any danger from it. Hey, I won't be tricked. The reason the flowers are blooming is because you guys were slacking off, right? The ghosts multiply once every 60 years. The flowers are a result of that. Earthquakes, eruptions, tsunamis, wars. I'm not exactly sure what, but it doesn't matter what it is. You guys just worked at it. If you guys just worked at it, everything would have returned back to normal. So it turns out that this rebirth happens every 60 years, but everyone forgets every time, so it seems super new each time. It's cool how math is used to logically come to the 60-year timer. And that's it. It was all a natural occurrence, and Koumakyou was only part of the incident. Touhou 9 was a fun game to play and learn. The charge meter, scopes, killing enemies were all easy to grasp when really giving the game a try. The game gets really fun when you're playing with a friend, which I have done, once, but never mind that. I enjoyed just playing this game with a nigh unbeatable lunatic boss, even story mode. While sort of bullcrap with the timers. Wait, what's that? The hell you mean extra start? No way there's an extra stage. Oh, never mind, it's just story mode, but everyone's at half a heart and the AI timers are visible. Cool, fun. Oh, and I guess all characters are now playable now instead of those who just had a story campaign. Back to my final thoughts. I seriously enjoyed giving this game's gameplay a shot. I completely recommend it, despite how obviously complex it is for a shoot-'em-up. And I know many of you familiar with the series heard that it's the black sheep of the series and decided not to play it, but really, it's good, see? I've just spoken about it for about an hour and 20 minutes. The story here is also very interesting, and I loved uncovering it, and experiencing all of the ending to finish the story off. I did summarize it and spoil basically everything, but I left tons of flavor text out, and I highly recommend you play the game for yourself, or search all the lore and endings, dialogue, etc. on the Touhou Wiki, which I used to write all the Shikiki conversations and a lot of other extra information. And of course, the Touhou Wiki, I can say, is very organized and easy to use, so I'd recommend checking that out as well. It's time. Let us run down the clock to its climax with this tale of ours, and speak of the final game of this episode. A side game featuring the one and only Tengu News reporter, Aya. Touhou 9.5, Touhou Bunkachou, Shoot the Bullet, is a game where you take pictures of your enemies instead of brutally murdering them with an assortment of brightly colored bullets. In this game, you play as Aya and take pictures of bosses. Literally, that's the entire game. You just take pictures of older Touhou bosses. Literally, there are no, new characters in this game. It is just repeats. Now, that's not a bad thing because Medicine does get to come back from last game, which I really appreciate. Before this point, I had never actually played this game, so I had no idea that Medicine was going to come back, but spoiler alert, she does. And so does Shikieki and Komachi. So it's kind of cool to see them here. And Suika even gets her own spell cards, and she debuted in Touhou 7.5, which was a fighting game, as we all know. I've discussed that previously, and my disdain for that game is kind of obvious. But she does get her own spell cards here. A whole whopping 2 of them in the extra stage, but we'll cover that a little bit later. I thought there would be story or something here, but no. Aya just takes pictures of bosses from previous games for an ambiguous reason. Now here's how she does it. So, pressing the shoot button allows you to shoot the bullet with your camera. Get it? Title drop? That's stupid. The camera quickly expands forward and shrinks if you hold the button down, and when you release it, a picture is taken. The picture clears all bullets caught in frame, and while the picture is being taken, everything gets put into slow-mo. The camera needs to charge up before use again, though. Holding down shift makes you focus just as before, but if you hold the now made camera button and focus at the same time, you activate charge mode. In charge mode, your speed is cut by at least 90%, and movement sucks a lot more. For 90% of attacks, it is impossible to dodge with this within charge mode. So don't do it. It's a fallacy. I ended up falling into that a lot and getting pwned because I tried to use charge mode while dodging a lot of attacks. It does not work. Actually, there is one spell card at the beginning of the game, Cerno. She uses it. It is, in fact, usable there, and I'm pretty sure that's the intended strategy. So basically, Cerno shoots around like big fat rice bullets around in a circle, which explode into more bullets. But she does it in a fashion that allows you to kind of just circle around her slowly with charge mode and take pictures of her whenever possible. It is one of the easiest spell cards in the game for this reason. So in this game, there are 10 total levels, not counting the extra stage. You don't select your difficulty or anything for either of these, and I don't know what the difficulty of the game is, I just work here. Each level has an assortment of scenes where you need to take care of it, where you need to take a certain amount of pictures of the boss. This could range from 3 pictures to even 10. This all forms a genuinely fun concept for a shmup that I would absolutely love, but I have a lot of problems with this game. The spell cards are not memorable at all, and some of the scenes aren't even consisting of spell cards. Some of them are just straight up non-spells that don't even matter at all. Like the Cerno spell card. Yes, it's memorable, but it's like one of the easiest spell cards in the game. Everything else from level 1's a blur. I don't remember a single other spell card except for that one. Levels 2 through 4, pretty much the same, except for one spell card that Alice has in Stage 3. It's the one where she sort of spawns in dolls, and then they summon a whole bunch of like red bullets around her in like a cool circle pattern. But other than that, everything just is a blank. And I only played this game just probably about a week ago. So it's pretty fresh on the brain. So it's really, really bad that a lot of these spell cards are straight up not memorable at all. Yeah, pretty much most of them you're just gonna finish no problem in stages 1 through 5, and things become a little bit more memorable at stage 6 and later because the attacks the bosses throw at you get so mentally difficult that most players will quit, saying it's impossible. And I've seen several players quit. There's a YouTuber that actually made a video about the entire Touhou project, sort of like I'm doing here, but he quit Shoot the Bullet at like stage 4. And that's stage 4. That's one of those stages I consider easy. And I'm telling you, dude, without the difficulty options, this game gets severely weakened. Its accessibility is a lot worse because of the difficulty options not being here. And its replayability value is just 0, because there are no difficulties to try for. There is nothing higher to shoot for other than the higher stages, which, for me, is not currently possible, because I am not skilled enough to beat anything past level 9. Because a lot of them boil down to having a lot of really, really fast bullets or a lot of really, 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 really hard spell cards that either confuse me or just kill me really quickly, and I have no idea what's going on. And I don't get the time to figure it out because things go from 0 to 1000 in 0.5 seconds. Some spell cards actually did, to me, seem that way. Almost impossible. Most don't have a prominent gimmick as well, which make them unique in early stages. They kind of just boil down to bullet rain and assorted patterns. There is a spell card late game that Koumakyou uses, I believe. It is basically bullet rain. I think it's kind of cool, but it is also really hard, so I don't think I actually beat it. But it is there and it exists. It's testament to how true this statement is. And the Alice spell card that I mentioned earlier, it is literally just bullet rain. The only quote-unquote gimmick to it is the fact that you can actually take pictures of the dolls that you can barely see because there's bullets overlapping them. You can take pictures of them and it'll completely disarm them. Now, don't think that that's a gimmick that only stays for Alice. It stays for every boss that uses a bullet shooter to shoot things. Whether it be a little talisman, like one of them things that Ron uses, or Kaguya shooting, or like actually even Sakuya. Sakuya has, in a couple of her attacks, she sends out like a few like weird magic circle thingies, and you can take pictures of those while they're shooting bullets, and it completely disarms them. Granted, will you be doing this? No, but it is a gimmick and it's there. It is a callback to Touhou 8 how many characters did in fact use bullet shooters for their attacks. Here it isn't used as prominently, but it exists. And I don't like it, because you have to charge up the camera for an excruciatingly long time after you take a picture and it succeeds. If you don't take a picture of the boss at all, it fails, and it usually starts back at 60, but if you don't clear a lot of bullets within that failed picture, you're all the way back to 30% or less, and have to charge it all the way up again, which takes kind of a long time, but if you're in charge mode, things are a little bit longer. Yeah, later stages are very good in this, in the assorted patterns regard, and having cool gimmicks and stuff. Most of them do have that spices things up, but they are just so incredibly hard that many become unfun or just uninteresting after you've died for the 500th time. And this is a true story, because I've taken over 500 pictures with one stage. Kaguya, this spell card, that, let me tell you, I don't know how I beat it, and I don't think I will ever beat it again. So basically, this spell card just shoots bullet rain. That's it. It's just a bunch of pellet bullets. They're all assorted in color. That's very cool. But all it does is just sends an ungodly amount of bullets at a semi-fast speed. It's sort of closer to medium, but it's kind of fast for how they're displayed. Yeah, I don't like it. It seems like half of them are super just straight up randomly coming at me. And when I'm trying to dodge one of them, 8 more come from another direction and I just get pwned. Now you're not going to see footage of that because I didn't bother to go back and record, most likely, any of my deaths. So yeah, I hated the spell card, and you will too, if you play this game, of course. I do recommend that you play this, even though there's a lot of problems I have with it. And I don't like how the average length of most boss attacks increases in later stages. I'm not saying it's bad to have longer attacks every now and then. I think that's great. But the attacks went from being about 30 seconds long to about 60 seconds each time. And that's not great at all. Now, I hear you complaining already, saying that some spell cards are intended to be very, very long. And that's true. Irin has one that's very, very long, if you do it correctly, of course. If you don't, then you'll die. But it's very, very long. It took me at least like a minute and a half to beat it. And that's actually like beating it, like within an attempt, beating it, not dying and then finishing it another time. But most other spell cards take roughly longer than previous, and I think that's kind of not great because it sort of kind of removes the quick Touhou aspect that this game had. And I'm not going to go over most attacks in this game because a lot of them boil down to dodging until you can take a picture and repeat and repeat and repeat. So I might as well talk about a couple other spell cards that I thought were notable. Let's start with the worst spell card in the game that I could complete, of course. Stage 7, Scene 2, or 7-2 for short, is a spell card done by Scarlet. In this card, Remy turns into bats and fires an incredibly fast tri-shot of red kunai based on where she moves. It is impossible to get a picture of her in this phase. She finally becomes vulnerable after at least 20 seconds of time spent. I swear down, I got clipped because I moved in the wrong direction for one frame way too many times here. It is dumb. Don't think to use your camera to save yourself either, because Remy fires everything faster if you do. So you get a permanent debuff if you use your camera. I don't know how I did this one, honestly. You have to be pixel and frame perfect. Those kunai move very fast, and it is very difficult to actually predict where they're going to go next, because sometimes Remy just decides that she's going to shift her entire firing direction, and you had no idea she was doing this, so then your 300 millisecond reaction time, because that's mine, you get pwned because you can't react fast enough, and then you die. You just die. And don't even think about trying to charge your attack, to charge up your camera with charge mode either, because you're going to get pwned. It's so easy to get pwned in this spell card, I swear down. So this spell card extends the amount of time you have to spend without being able to use the signature mechanic of this game without making the spell card harder. Most of the time, I died when I tried to use the camera in the first phase, primarily because of the speed increase and the weird way that Remy shoots. It's so weird. I died a bazillion times trying to beat this. I hate this attack. But you only need 3 pictures. That is the good part about this one. Only 3 pictures and you're done. An example of an attack that has a good gimmick is 6-7, done by Chen. So, first time, Chen kind of just kills you. Just kidding, I died the first time though, and you will too. This spell card is hilarious. The way Chen jumps around is just funny, and dying to her the first time got a few laughs out of me. It also has a pattern. Chen jumps to the side of the screen and shoots, but if she doesn't, she'll jump again and jump right at you. A good one. Just the right amount of uncertainty to be fair, and a fun factor in the fact that Chen just hucks herself at you. Now, I can't say much about this game I can't say that much about this game because its structure is different, and I didn't actually beat it. I tried so hard to beat it. I've seen other people talk about the entirety of the Touhou series just like me. I finished almost every single level in Stage 8, and all but one in Stage 9, and I couldn't even touch Stage 10. And Stage EX, I almost got close to beating one of Suika's spell cards, and then that's it. I'm not really sure what considers the game being beaten, because this game doesn't actually have much of a story at all. There are no cutscenes, there is nothing to speak of in the story regard. So I don't know what considers this game completed. Is it just unlocking the spell card, unlocking the extra stage, which requires you to beat 66 scenes in total throughout all the stages? I'm not sure if that makes people consider that the game is finished. I'm gonna consider it not finished because this game's structure is completely different compared to other Touhou games. But yeah, I definitely didn't beat it based off of my standards. But tell me in the comments if you think I beat the game. I have a feeling that there's this special newspaper thing that gets unlocked at the end of the game if you complete every scene in every level. I believe if you do that, you'll get an extra collectible. It's supposedly an extra newspaper from what I've read, and it does nothing. It's literally useless. And I don't think you can even read it either. So, great, I guess. Yeah, and back to the no dialogue, no cutscenes, no story, nothing. This game seems unfinished because of that. There are no cutscenes. There is nothing telling you what the next goal is. Aya doesn't really give much comments on anything other than, flavor text at the end of the stages. If you hover over a scene that you've completed, Aya will give you some flavor text, but it's flavor text that doesn't really do anything. It doesn't say much about the game or her objective or nothing. It's just nothing. It's just what she thought about the spell card. Am I going to go over those? No. Because we'd be here all day. I don't like how 90% of us here aren't going to even come close to finishing this game. By my standards, of course. Because it gets so absurdly hard from stage 6 that it's just going to be impossible for a lot of people. If you haven't beat a Touhou game on hard mode, then you probably won't stand a chance against this game. I guarantee you. I only just was able to beat Subterranean Animism. Most people who aren't familiar with the series won't know this game, but that's Touhou 11 for short, I guess. And that's considered to be one of the hardest games in the entire series. And I just barely beat that. So, and that's a normal mode. I did beat the Touhou 10 extra stage. We'll be talking about that soon, of course. I guarantee you, if I didn't have any of those things completed or any of that skill to do any of that, I would have gotten dumpstered. And I assume most of you, if you haven't achieved anything close to that, you probably aren't going to get very far in this game. And I don't like that. Or most of them all of them that I've played, except for this game, have difficulty options. So I think it's kind of weird that, you can't pick your difficulty, so a lot of players aren't going to be able to beat this game because of that. Honestly, I would pick easy mode for level 10. Every scene in level 10, I would pick easy mode. When I couldn't go any farther, I'd pick easy mode. And I don't like how a lot of scenes are hard because of the sheer amount of bullets coming at you at a really fast speed. Some spell cards, it seems like the game just decides it, and the game just decides that you're dead and you just eat dirt. Looking at you, Ramen Kaguya. I love this game's concept in this game, and the general direction of the spell cards fluctuates from great to unfun. I don't know, this game doesn't have a lot to it. The only content it's got is just the gameplay. There is nothing else to do in this game. There's nothing to unlock. There is no special, you can't start with lives. There are no extra lives. There isn't any unlockable characters. You can't unlock Reimu and do a special mode where you can actually shoot down the bosses. No, there's just nothing. It's just Aya, and it's just pictures, and it's just the same scenes, and it's just incredibly difficult spell cards. There's honestly not much here, and I think that about does it. Actually, that's all I have to say. It's a great concept, and honestly, I'm not trying to give off that I don't like this game at all. I like this game. I don't love it because of the problems I have that I've already mentioned. I don't like the direction of the spell cards. I don't like how... honestly, I think this game could have done really well with more gimmicks in spell cards. More spell cards that, are more mind-boggling and more memorization-based rather than Unga Bunga dodge with skill. Because I feel like a lot of these don't require much thought to figure out. And it's not as fun for me. A lot of spell cards, quite a few spell cards were very fun. That I can say. But I just don't like how quite a few of them just don't have a great direction to them that makes you think about it. There's nothing unique. This game had an opportunity to make a lot of unique spell cards that, revolved around Aya's ability to use her camera and clear bullets. Honestly, Zun should have made invincible spell cards that you could not dodge and are forced to use the camera. And actually, I think the game... And I think all spell cards in this game are doable without the camera. And I think, for scenes that you complete without the camera, you should unlock something, but there are no unlockables in this game other than the extra newspaper. So, yeah, that kind of concludes my thoughts about this game. Well, I like it, but I don't love it. And I don't hate it either. It's a great concept, a beautiful concept that I do hope gets revisited, but really kinda execution.
Oh no, the game crashed. Uh-oh. Yeah, the game has crashed twice on me now. Racing! I have a plushie of you. Oh! Bam! Oh, what? Excuse. Oh, nice shot. See, guys, I'm not that bad of a photographer. Fuck. Oh, I'm not a good photographer. Because good photographers don't miss. Ah, gotcha. Ah, gotcha that time. Gotcha. Yeah. She was shockingly close to me that time. Yeah! Let's go! Medicine! Let's go, medicine! Oh, she puts out little slowing poison clouds. Just like the original. Just like the original game. Oh. I have to win this now. No! Oh, got it. Yeah. Yeah, I did it. Yeah, get it. Oh, no! 100%. No! I couldn't even see it. Oh! Hey! Ha! I'm surprised it was misclick. I didn't actually mean to take a picture. However, I did mean to take a picture there. Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I could not see a thing. You gotta get in the thick of it and, like, dodge. Oh, oh, what? Ah! What? Oh, look at that, dude. Wait, what? Oh, yeah, give him the finesse. Give him the finesse. Yeah. Wait, what? Huh? Huh? Oh, my gosh. Huh. All right, one more picture. One more picture for all the marbles. Here we go. Yeah, let's go. It's K. I mean, Touhou. Ah! I mean, stuff's multiplying. Red bullets are flying everywhere. I have no idea what's going on. I'm just trying to take a couple pictures. I'm a photography student. Runaway rabbit. Fluster escape. Is she on the run right now? Touhou's on the run, and she's like, and then she sees Aya, and she's just like, you know what? Screw the chase scene. I'm killing this guy. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a crap. I'm gonna go and kill. I'm killing. Ah. Yeah, let's go.